many options this morning. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Black Sabbath, Roxette, and I decided to go with ELO because just something said to me, probably underappreciated, maybe underplayed. Do we hear enough ELO is what I'm getting at. So that's the choice I made. I guess it's one of the advantages of being the host of the show and getting the opportunity to make these decisions on a daily basis. You will listen to the song I tell you that you will listen to when we start the show every day. And in this case, it is indeed the Electric Light Orchestra, or ELO to their friends. It was on this day in 1979 that ELO began a 5-week run at number one on the album charts with their album called Discovery. It was the first number one for ELO, and it featured tracks like Shine a Little Love, The Diary of Horace Wimp, and the one that you just heard, Don't Bring Me Down. It is 2 minutes after 9 on this Tuesday morning, the 16th of June. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the most interactive radio show anywhere in this community. Our phone lines open the minute you hear the first note of that song every day. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. We are always open online. Email is mike@570news.com. And on X and Instagram, it is @Farwell_WR. We're always happy to interact with you here on the show. I had a chance last evening to drive through the beautiful, I don't go often enough to Maryhill. And there was a good reason to go through Maryhill on my way to the Aris Valley Golf and Country Club. No, I did not golf. I will not golf, Sam I am. You cannot make me swing a club this summer. I've already turned down multiple opportunities. I am such a horrible golfer. And it just frustrates the HE double hockey sticks out of me. So I always decline the invitation to golf, but I'm not going to decline the invitation to MC your dinner following the golfing. You do the golfing, I'll do the talking. You see how this works? It's a pretty good arrangement, at least for me, because it saves me being out on the course. But I got to spend a lovely evening with lovely people out at Aris Valley, which I will get to in a moment. But Maryhill. And, you know, the old Central Tavern, when I went by there, I just thought back on all the memories in that building. Oh, the stories the walls of that building could tell. But here's what really occurred to me. It's a really pretty town. I don't, like I said, go through often enough. I've got friends who, like, I thought we were friends. Yeah, Wetzels, I'm looking at you right now. And I think that we're pretty tight, but I've never once been invited to their place in Maryhill. And now it occurs to me probably why. Like, clearly, I'm not of the class or status to visit. Like, that's for the Wetzels there in Maryhill, right? Not us, regular Joes and Janes from Kitchener. I think that's how it works. Anyway, you got yourself a real pretty little town there. I'll be back just because I want to check out that market on the corner that now sells Shaw's ice cream. I don't miss an ice cream stop. I will skip every golf event this summer, but I will not skip any opportunity to pick up an ice cream cone. That much I can promise you. On my way home from work yesterday, as I was getting onto Highway 78 off of Trussler Road, I got behind a vehicle that had, and these things, they always amuse me, these things. They're two bright bumper stickers, kind of like a pinky purple. I don't know. If I say it's purple, my beloved will say it's a different color because we just clearly see things differently. But they were these bright purplish, pinkish stickers on the bumpers letting me know that this driver was a new driver. In fact, one of the bumper stickers actually said, skill development in progress. That's what the sticker on the right said. The sticker on the left said, let's all survive. And I'm like, that's just pretty good advice there. It's not a bad reminder. What I find interesting about stickers like this, it kind of reminded me of the baby on board stickers. Like, do you think that I'm going to be even more careful around your vehicle because there might be a baby on board. Sometimes there might be when I'm there or not, whatever. You got the sticker that says baby on board. Let me tell you something about the way I drive, okay? I came from the school of defensive driving. No offense, but I'm out there for myself. I'm protecting myself. So whether you've got a sticker on your car that says baby on board, or you've got a sticker on your car that says skill development in progress, new driver, listen, I am trying to stay clear of you no matter what for self-preservation. Not only do I want to avoid injury to myself, I don't want to go through any of the hassles of fixing a car, going through insurance, all of those other things. You can put whatever ding-dang sticker you want on your vehicle. I promise you that. It makes no difference as to how I will behave around you on the road. I am out there trying to keep space, right? Follow at an appropriate distance, maintain my speed, all of these different things to preserve myself and my property. I promise you, I do not want to collide with you on the road. But this young lady behind the wheel was driving excellently. And in fact, I would like to go to whatever driving school she has gone to, skill development in progress, and learn. Or maybe we all could, because she was excellent. She merged perfectly. She got right up to the appropriate speed. Everything was great. So good job by you. And we'll just all remember our defensive driving lessons. By the way, I mentioned going through the hassles of insurance and whatnot. And we're going to talk about changes coming to auto insurance in Ontario at 11 this morning. I don't know if you've heard them yet. They're taking effect July the 1st. I, for one, and this might shock you, I ain't happy at all. Like, basically, we're going to get less coverage for more money, unless we want to keep the coverage that we've had for decades, which was always mandatory, which is no longer going to be mandatory. So now we're going to have to pay for it. So you'll pay more to keep the same coverage, because that's exactly what we all want to do in this economy, right? Pay more for something that we had mandatory in our insurance coverage up until July the 1st. So we'll get into that at 11 this morning, but if you have to go away, you might want to come back and get that information. We'll go to the phones. Doug is with us early this morning on the phone lines. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? How's your phone, Doug?
Oh, I hope it's all right. I got charged over. Got my earpiece charged all right. So
Doug.
All right.
Okay, you're cutting in and out on me here. What's on your mind?
Well, listen, I'm going to post this a week and a half ago. How come with the marketing is as far as they were in the playoffs, why couldn't we see that on TV? And lo and behold, it turns up on TV. And it was a good lesson in really, really understanding just what we have when it comes to play-by-play with you and Josh. Because these two guys were Chicago, I guess they're play-by-play, and they were just terrible. Absolutely second-guessing every last thing the referees did, criticizing certain things they have criticizing. I believe what I was listening to. But I wanted to watch it because I wanted to see how the bar is doing.
All right, now I think we pretty much, Doug, I'm sorry, we pretty much lost you there. If I caught the gist of it in between the cutouts, Doug was referring to something he asked about a week ago when it comes to the Calder Cup Championship, Toronto Marlies, and it's at the Chicago Wolves they're playing? I think it is. And anyway, now, lo and behold, he found them on TV, and he did not like the broadcast from Chicago, and he says how lucky you are. You know how lucky you are to have Josh Piercy and I doing Kitchener Rangers games? That's what Doug said. I'm not saying, I'm just paraphrasing a little bit or repeating. Anyway, I will say this. Josh and I work very hard to do the very best job that we can. I'm glad that it comes across and that you enjoy and or appreciate it. That means an awful lot to us. By the way, Josh, who we affectionately refer to as JP, we got a new nickname for him. He's now Scoots. I call him Scoots all the time because when we were in Kelowna, this guy, he became a member of the Scooter Brigade. I will always default to 2 feet in a heartbeat, okay? I don't need to get on one of these electric things and whiz around the trail systems, but everybody out there was doing it. And Josh, he got the itch. He had to scratch the itch. So he hopped on one of those scooters and tooled around town for a day. And so ever since, I've called him Scoots. I think that's a fair nickname for somebody that rides an electric scooter, right? I will call you Scoots if you want to be called Scoots, riding your electric scooter around town. Anyway, we will be back in about 95, 94. I'm losing track of the number of days, but not many days until September the 18th when a new Kitchener Rangers season opens. And Scoots and I will be in the David Schooley broadcast booth for another season of Kitchener Rangers hockey right here on your home of Rangers hockey. That, of course, would be 570 News Radio, the home of your Memorial Cup champion, Kitchener Rangers. And did you hear about the VIP experience that you could win to a Kitchener Rangers game next season? You'll get a tour of the dressing room. You'll get a meet and greet with a player. You'll get some signed merch. That's right, merch signed by the Memorial Cup champion team. All of that and a seat in the broadcast booth with me and Scoots for a game next season. That is the early bird prize in our Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle. If you get your tickets before Friday at noon, get those tickets now at cf5050.ca. Okay? And the jackpot, by the way, got up over $90,000 this morning. So that's a take-home prize of $45,000. You're in for the big draw. You're in for the early bird Kitchener Rangers Memorial Cup champion VIP experience if you buy before Friday at noon. cf5050.ca. Just one more thing, and I promise to make it quick before we get to our Farwell Show 5. And I'm promising to make it quick because I have complained and kvetched about this before, but it struck me again last evening. And so I don't know why I am so fixated on this. It's just, I guess all I can say is it's the way my mind works. I like things to be done in an orderly fashion. You know, for example, our Farwell's Force list of members, right? I love it when it goes sequentially. Of course, I'm not going to force you to take the next number in sequence. If there's a number that has meaning to you, you have it. I want you to have the number you want. I want you to have everything you want in this life. So I've got a bunch of rando numbers, but when I have a sheet where I keep track of these numbers and there are gaps in it, you know, like there are right now. Like I've got number 393, 395, 396, and 400 filled in, but 392, 394, 397, 398, like that, that's hard on me. It's just the way my mind works, okay? So here's the thing. As I was out in some of our beautiful countryside, still waiting for my invitation to a house in Maryhill, just for the record. I guess I'm not good enough for Maryhill, but whatever. And because I was in different areas and enjoying the countryside on a beautiful late spring evening, I happened to be on my way home from the Aris Valley Golf and Country Club along Bloomingdale Road. So I knew that when I got to Bloomingdale Road, I was going to pass a certain sign. Again, I've been down this road before, but it's a sign that welcomes you to the city of Kitchener, and it tells you the population. And I remember this sign on Bloomingdale Road particularly, mostly I think because I'm weird and this is the way my mind works, but it's the first sign that I had seen indicating a population for the city of Kitchener of 300,000 people. This goes back a little, probably from the last time I complained about this. And lo and behold, when I went past it last night, it said 304,000 was the population of the city of Kitchener, which is all well and good. I'm glad that they update the sign. But here's the thing, and I know I got to let it go, but I can't. I don't understand how we have so many of these signs and they all have different numbers on them. I pass a sign every day when I get on the highway at Trussler Road, and I head Highway 78 eastbound going home from work. I get on at Trussler, and I pass the big sign, "Welcome to Kitchener, population 235,000." It has said that for as long as I have worked here, which is more than a decade now in this building. I don't know. Anyway, so the sign on the highway, and I know what you're going to tell me, it's provincial jurisdiction. I get it. But this one has said 235,000 for as long as I can remember. The sign on Bloomingdale Road as you enter Kitchener had said 300,000. It's been updated to 304,000. Cool. This is my question. This is, again, going back to how I like Farwell's Force membership numbers to be in sequence, right? Why don't we, when you update the sign, update all of them. Like, I don't understand this. Why? Why do you do this to me? I just want you to update all the signs. Do you have so many signs you don't know where they all are? Because I could get into a conversation or a little bit of a, can I say bitch session on the air? Okay, I just did. Can I get into a bitch session about all the money you've spent on signs, so many signs you don't know where they all are? I want a program. Who's responsible for the signs? Somebody knew enough or had the job to change the sign on Bloomingdale Road from 300,000 to 304,000. So why don't you change all of the signs? There should be an inventory of all of the signs, and when you change one, you change them all. And that way, I won't pass the sign on the highway that says 235,000 people and the sign on Bloomingdale Road in the same day that says 304,000 people. By my math, that's a difference of 69,000 people. Somewhere in the middle is the actual population. I don't know. I'm just asking, when you change one sign, change them all. Somebody should be responsible for all of the signs. And if you can't keep track of all of your signs, it likely means you have too many signs. And that's all I have to say about that.
1, 2.
I guarantee you we have more than 5 population signs, but that's okay. You have as many signs as you want. I'm going to give you 5 things. Your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. Number 1, the Waterloo Regional Police set to release details of a major fraud investigation today. This afternoon, the WRPS is holding a media conference to share the details of the $48 million investigation. More information expected over the noon hour today. You keep it right here on 570 News Radio for all of those updates. Number 2, Waterloo Regional Police continue to investigate a case of vandalism in Cambridge that shut down a recently opened, in fact, it was just opened about a week ago, accessible sports court. The new Jumpstart Inclusive Multisport Court in Cambridge was reportedly targeted last week by hate-motivated graffiti on a bench. The city said the court will be closed while the investigation is ongoing. Number 3, on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, please, I want you to consider, if you're not already, sitting down for this one, okay? Because about that new Highway 7, about the new Highway 7, you see, between Kitchener and Guelph. Well, the provincial government has quietly begun expropriating more land for that project. However, the province will not say how much land is being sought this time around or tell us the value of that land, how much they're spending on it. Another question is, why are the expropriations happening now rather than when others were done more than a decade ago? You see, between 2012 and 2015, the provincial government expropriated 160 properties, at least some entirely, some just in part. And then last May, the Ontario government, you'll remember this because one of you pointed it out to me, removed trees and other vegetation from land at the northern tip of the Hanlon Expressway in Guelph, right at where it meets Woodlawn Road. Yeah, that was for work on a new Highway 7, but that same work to remove the vegetation and the brush happened back in 2018, but nothing happens with the highway, so they had to do it again last year. Anyway, now there's more land being expropriated. How much, the value of it, we don't know. Why it's being done now, nobody knows this. But don't worry, we're going to get a new Highway 7 between Kitchener and Guelph. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a new survey by Interac has found single Canadians are paying more for groceries than those living in shared households. The report suggests nearly 8 in 10 single Canadians say they cannot seem to bring their bills down no matter what they do. Food inflation has continued to outpace overall inflation in recent years. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, the Cambridge Food Bank has launched its annual Schools Out, Summer's Not campaign. The campaign aims to fill the gap in homes where meals are required as families lose access to breakfast and lunch programs that children rely on during the school year. The Cambridge Food Bank is asking the community to come together to help and fill this gap, with every dollar staying local and directly supporting neighbours in Cambridge and North Dumfries. The Cambridge Food Bank has supported almost 2,800 children already this year. That's a 9% increase over the first 5 months of last year.
A modern-day warrior, mean
have 2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning. Last night, Aris Valley Golf and Country Club with my friends from the Waterloo Region Down Syndrome Society. They raised $26,000, a new record with their annual Upside Down golf tournament. We got a performance by the Buddy Choir. What a bunch of beauties all around. Great to see you last night. Good job by you, Waterloo Region Down Syndrome Society. We'll get to your morning wake-up call right after this. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of your 9:30 update in the 570 News Center, let's get to the phones here from Dallas this morning. Good morning, Dallas.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I got a quick little one for you, and then I'm going to get on to my main one. But I reckon the guy that's taking care of the signs is probably the guy that's supposed to be painting the lines on the road. I don't know.
Listen, they got all the signs for the stormwater system in Kitchener, including one at Victoria Park that they shouldn't have posted. Like, I don't know. Somebody took care of all of those signs at the same time. I just want them to do the same thing with population signs.
Go figure, right? But anyways, what I would like to throw out there, and I was going to do it last year, and if I happen to win this particular early bird prize that's coming up, I just want to put a challenge or something out there to whoever wins it, donate it to some child or maybe a couple of children. I don't know how many tickets there are for it, that may or may not be able to attend the game, and just donate it back, if that makes sense to you.
So the person who wins the Kitchener Rangers VIP experience should donate it back to a kid or a family.
Fair.
All right. Yeah, listen, Dallas, we call that paying it forward, I think. And that would absolutely be an option. Or you could keep it yourself because you bought your ticket in the Farwell for Hire 50/50 raffle and wanted to keep it for yourself. That early bird prize and what you do with it is up to you if you win it. And the only way to win it is by getting your ticket before Friday at noon. Getting a ticket is easy. cf5050.ca. That update I mentioned coming from the 570 News Center in just a moment. And then following up on a conversation we had last week about potholes. And one of you mentioned a pilot project in Grey County where used tires were recycled into a new road surface. And it showed pretty incredible results. So why aren't we using it in a more widespread way? Well, that conversation led me to a Center for Research right at the University of Waterloo that is testing these materials and so much more. Could we see one day the end of potholes? Let's find out as we check in on that center at the University of Waterloo next on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Last week on the show, we talked about those nasty potholes, and we got into the conversation around how it is after all of this time and living in the world that we live in today. We have not yet found some sort of solution, some sort of road surface that is far more resistant to potholes. And one of you brought up this pilot project that had been done in Grey County some years ago where used tires were recycled into a new road surface. And it found to be a much longer lasting surface. So once you brought that up, that led me to doing a little more Googling. That's what I call research these days, which led me to the Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology. And wouldn't you know that the Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology, or CPAT, is right at the University of Waterloo, right here in our own backyard. And sure as the day is long, they do research on projects like the one in Grey County and others, one that's happening on the 401, another one that's happening right now in the city of Kitchener. And so it goes from there. And CPAT is looking for these very things, road surfaces that are more resistant to the wear and tear that they endure on an annual basis. Hassan Baj is a professor and associate dean of research and external partnerships, as well as the director of the Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology, or CPAT, and joins the show this morning. And just by way of overview, Hassan, as we begin this conversation this morning, can you tell us a little bit more about CPAT? What do you do there?
Yeah, so Center for CPAT, or Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology, actually it was founded around 2005, actually after years of research happening at the University of Waterloo in the pavement and road transportation engineering area, as an initiative to lead Canadian research focusing on infrastructure, on construction materials used in road construction, on pavement management. And at the time, it connected academia with industry, with public sector. We have different industry partners. And for example, the region of Waterloo also is a partner in Ministry of Transportation and other entities. And we do this research to help these entities and to help our community have better roads and better that address the needs of the current needs, but also future needs. So this is in a nutshell CPAT, and one of our biggest missions is also to train undergraduate students and graduate students to become good engineers. Engineers that understand the needs of the industry, engineers that understand that they're part of an ecosystem, they understand that their roads needs to be sustainable and also environmentally friendly and cost-wise, actually. We need to train them to know how to integrate aspects like life cycle cost analysis in their decision making. And we trained like a lot of students. I don't know the exact number, but in hundreds of students over the years. Graduate students, masters and PhD, who now work in different places in consulting firms, industry, and public sector.
So what led me to you, Hassan, was a conversation we were having on the show last week about the potholes that we see every spring, and maybe they were worse this spring. We don't know, but we've been getting a lot of complaints about them. And somebody brought up this pilot project that was done in Grey County some years ago, where old tires, used tires, were reused, I guess, recycled into a new road resurfacing project. It was called Rubber Modified Asphalt. What do you know about RMA, Rubber Modified Asphalt, and maybe this project in Grey County?
Yeah, well, this is a product that uses, again, as you just mentioned, crump rubber to improve the quality of the pavement. Actually, what happens is that it's sustainable, it's environmentally friendly. We are recycling a material that would have been not used for this purpose or ended in landfills. And also it helps save some binder, like some asphalt binder in the mix, increase the flexibility of the mix, and extend the service life of the mix. So that's in a nutshell the idea behind this project. And there are also other additives, actually, that would help in certain aspects.
What did we learn from this project? Is it better than our traditional asphalt resurfacing techniques?
Yeah, well, I wasn't the leader of that project, so I cannot speak a lot about it. I was one of the examiners of the research, and I think the results that they found were very interesting. I think maybe we need to do a little bit more real-life experiences, monitor the pavement over a couple of years. But also what we are trying to use also is instrumentation to tell us what happens within the pavement. Most of the time when we build a road, we don't see any cracks or problems. Like, let's say you have two different solutions that you want to compare. It takes years to see something happening on the surface. So we also could use instrumentation within the pavement to monitor the service life of the pavement, to monitor what happens during this service life, not waiting for years until we see the results on the surface.
one of the projects that CPAT was involved in was a resurfacing of the 401 westbound from here over by Woodstock. What was that project intended to do, and what have we learned from there?
So that was a pavement built with using a new idea which is called perpetual pavement. Perpetual pavement, the idea is that we change the pavement structure, we use different materials. So just to explain to the audience, the asphalt that they see on the surface, we don't use the same material like in the different layers. Like what you see at the top is a different mix than what you see 5 centimeters down or 10 centimeters down or 30 centimeters down. So we use different materials, and typically we have thicker pavement. We have at the bottom of the asphalt layers, we have a material that will resist what we call fatigue cracking. So the material will not crack very quickly, and cracking happens typically in the bottom, and we see it after some years. Actually, it takes years to the crack to go from the bottom to the top of the pavement. So that was the idea of that pavement. And also in this one, we used instrumentation, we collected data, and based on this data, we worked on models to predict the future of the deterioration of the pavement. So that led actually, like I can link it to a project that we did here in Kitchener a couple of years ago with the region of Waterloo and funding from the National Research Council, where we instrumented the pavement with modern instrumentation, and also we are collecting tons of data. So like when we talk about big data, and we're using artificial intelligence model to predict the future and see, for example, things related to climate change, the fluctuation of temperature, like you mentioned potholes earlier, this fluctuation that happens more frequently in the winter, in our winters. For example, last winter, we had a lot of episodes of freeze-thaw during the winter that initiates tiny cracks that people cannot see sometimes, but these cracks help water infiltrate, it freezes within these cracks, and then a thaw episode happens and it melts, and then more water comes back, and then we have another freeze period. So that these freeze-thaw periods that happen during the winter, if we have more of them, they will lead to these cracks to become bigger, and that would lead to potholes. And they don't happen overnight, actually. It's a long process before we see them on the surface.
So have we been able to determine any surfaces that are better than what we typically use to prolong the arrival of potholes?
This is a great question. And we at CPAT are leading or have been leading for the last 10 years a major initiative on self-healing asphalt. So creating new materials that would self-heal. Asphalt itself has the ability to self-heal in summer a little bit. So when the temperature goes up, it melts a little bit and it seals some of these cracks. But we're working on engineered materials to help asphalt self-heal. So when we talk about tiny cracks that lead to the infiltration of the water, self-healing asphalt would prevent them for a certain time, delay them. We cannot eliminate 100% cracking. Cracking is a natural process that happens in asphalt, in concrete, in different materials. We're trying to mitigate it. We're trying to control it. And this research is still happening. It's funded. It's not funded by industry because it's a long-term project. It's not something that will happen tomorrow morning. It's part of it is funded by the federal government through a discovery grant, what we call actually funding. And so there is an international group that I've been leading, I've led in the past actually, focusing on developing new materials to tackle cracking in pavements.
What might be holding us back, Hassan, from a wider spread adoption of new materials for road resurfacing?
Yeah, so civil engineering in general actually is a conservative industry. We cannot just go and use any material that we just tested in the lab and say that it will work in real life. So what happens is that there is a long process for developing a solution, and then another like a few years to test it in the lab. Sometimes we need to create new tests because these materials are different from conventional materials. So we need to test them properly. And then we go to the field and we have pilot projects and we have trials. So it's a long process. And also sometimes is the financial support. Like if I am leading a paving company and you come and tell me, hey, in 20 years, I'll find a solution for you. Would I fund it? I don't know. So we need sometimes strong funding to support these initiatives. That should not come from industry because industry will focus on short-term solutions and very understandably, but we need probably our federal, provincial governments to support these type of initiatives and long-term research, strategic research, rather than just incremental research.
Out of curiosity, that project you mentioned in Kitchener with the region of Waterloo, do you know what area that is in, what road that is on?
It's on Cortland Avenue when you leave the Highway 8 and go towards Block Line. There is a section there. It's not very long. It's like 10, 15 meters. And we use instrumentation that tells us every day, like we can collect data remotely. We know the temperature in the pavement. We know how it's fluctuating. We know what we call stresses and strains. So these deformations that happen at the different levels, these forces that are created from the traffic. And we collect this data and we analyze it and we see what happens within the pavement. And at the same time, we go back and look at the pavement and use techniques to measure its performance and link the two together.
And that data then, Hassan, is that helping us create a better asphalt, or what are we doing with what we learn?
Yeah, this actually is not for creating a better asphalt. We could use it to test new materials, but this is for creating a proactive pavement management system. So pavement roads are like, let's give an example, a car that needs an oil change from time to time. If you don't maintain your car, you didn't change the oil, you didn't change, you don't do the maintenance, the engine will break down. Pavement is the same. If we don't do some pavement management, crack sealing, and sometimes this overlay and other techniques to extend the service life of the pavement, they will crack faster and they will deteriorate faster. So what we are trying to do here is that instead of waiting until we see the cracks in the surface, we collect data that happens in the pavement that will inform us about the behavior of these pavements and how pavement engineers should integrate that in pavement management systems. And this is maybe another aspect that I should talk about. Pavement management systems, actually the founder of pavement management system was a professor at the University of Waterloo, Professor Ralph Haas, one of the founders. And a lot of municipalities now, Ministry of Transportation, adopted these ideas to inform us on the best times and best solutions to extend the service life of the pavement without waiting to see the cracks happening or the rutting and other types of deterioration. So through instrumentation, we are trying to make these pavements smart. They tell us what's going on before we see them falling apart.
Very interesting work indeed. Hassan, I appreciate your time on the show today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Hassan Baj is a professor and associate dean of research and external partnerships, as well as the director of the Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology, or CPAT, right here at the University of Waterloo. This was a conversation started last week on the show when we were talking about potholes, that annual occurrence, the frustration that we have had this year when there seem to be more potholes. It's a familiar story, the freeze-thaw cycle and the potholes that result. But surely, at this point in our history as human beings, we have better ways, don't we? And the nearest I can figure, following our conversation last week about pilot projects, including the one that's going on in Kitchener right now on Cortland Avenue, near the Highway 7-8 off-ramps, between, I guess it would be the A.R. Kaufman Y there and Blockline Road, headed in that direction. But the biggest barrier seems to be the upfront cost of using these sturdier or heartier materials. So potholes will just remain an annual inevitability, and we'll patch them up as best we can, I suppose. But interesting research being done right in our own backyard at the University of Waterloo. Thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
I think maybe we need to do a little bit more real-life experiences, monitor the pavement over a couple of years. But also what we are trying to use also is instrumentation to tell us what happens within the pavement. So we also could use instrumentation within the pavement to monitor the service life of the pavement, to monitor what happens during these service lives, not waiting for years until we see the results on the surface.
Hassan Baj is the director of the Center for Pavement and Transportation Technology at the University of Waterloo. We are learning more about road surfaces and those that have greater stability and endurance over time. Adoption seems to be wider spread in the United States. The primary barrier to adoption appears to be the upfront cost, which I totally understand the sticker shock. What I don't understand is why we don't look past that upfront cost to all of the follow-on costs that are associated with the eventual and, dare I say, inevitable deterioration of that road surface, right? So we're going to be constantly repairing potholes. We're going to be dealing with the time and in many cases, the money that comes with the complaints that come in and the legal ramifications of people saying my vehicle was damaged by a pothole on your road in the municipality. We've got a big insurance pool for this municipality to deal with those sorts of concerns and complaints. So I think longer term, we're probably paying way more than we would up front if we adopted some of these new materials. Let's go to the phones. Frank is with us. Good morning, Frank.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. That was interesting that we had not only a local entity doing work in materials and materials technology, but the fact that they were able to find out there was some work on Cortland near the expressway and sensors being, embedded in the pavement. Also, when I was doing some of this research, maybe which led you towards this,
well, we are having a dickens of a time with phone connections today. When Doug called earlier, he dropped in and out. I don't know if that's something in the air. Is it something in the atmosphere today? We love our status as the most interactive radio program anywhere in this region. But it works best when the technology doesn't fail us, and that seems to be the case in a couple of occasions so far today. Let's hope we get the gremlins out of the machine, or whatever coverage area that you are in is providing greater coverage as we continue through the show, because we have many things to talk about. And I'm sure we've all got thoughts on, how we could do a better job when it comes to our road surfaces here in the region and beyond. I mean, I think it's a night and day comparison almost between driving on a highway in Canada and a highway when we cross the border into the U.S. But maybe that's just me and my anecdotal research done on the somewhat limited trips that I've done. Nonetheless, phone lines remain open to you on the show as we continue our conversations today on the Mike Farwell Show. It's 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, I'm pretty sure you know that this month, June, is Farwell for Hire month this year. It's usually in May, but we were a little busy with some hockey team. I don't know. They won some championship. They call it a Memorial Cup, I think. Way to go, you Kitchener Rangers. So we're more than happy to be operating for our Farwell for Hire fundraiser in support of cystic fibrosis research in the month of June this year. But there's a backbone to the work that we do and the effort that you are supporting that we wanted to spend a little more time talking about. And this kind of came up organically, if you will, at our launch party a couple of weeks ago with Dan Robert, who's in studio with me. Dan is the Director of Philanthropy with the Waterloo Region Community Foundation. thanks for being here. Good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, I can't thank you enough, really, for helping my beloved and I to realize a dream that we had long had, and that was for the creation of what is known now as the Farwell for Hire Fund. And this is something that we solicit donations to, in a very, I guess, aggressive and targeted way through the month of Farwell for Hire. And then it sits there throughout the year that we can continue to add funds to it. And we'll get into that in a moment. But as a community foundation, the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, Dan, what does a community foundation do?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike. We are one of over 200 community foundations across Canada, and we exist to serve the needs of a community. So we serve the needs of the 3 cities and 4 townships within Waterloo Region. And then there are neighboring community foundations such as in Guelph or in London that serve those areas as well. And we exist to tackle the needs of the community in the charitable sector. For us, that's about 1,000 charities and nonprofits in Waterloo Region. We are there to support their needs through grants. We are there to help amplify their needs across the community and mobilize the community to come together to tackle the biggest issues that our region faces.
Does the Community Foundation itself issue those grants, Dan, or do those grants come from the fund holders within the umbrella organization, I guess, of the Community Foundation?
Yeah, so it actually happens in both ways, Mike. We have some funds that we manage on behalf of the community, and the community is actually involved in getting that money back out into the community. So we ask the charities in the community many times a year what they're up to, what their needs are. They submit that into the Community Foundation, and then volunteers from across the community review those needs and make decisions on how to support. But most of our funding is actually through over 450 individual funds, such as the Farwell for Hire Fund, where those folks have the ability to then direct their money to the causes that mean the most to them. And sometimes they require our help to navigate the sector and figure out what those needs are. And you've got a laser focus in terms of yours, but we love to support the Farwell for Hire Fund as well.
Well, and I mean, to be honest, the work that you and the team at the Community Foundation are doing on behalf of a fundraiser that works like ours. I mean, I handed you an envelope today because there's a constant back and forth during the month of the campaign from us collecting money and you processing all of these donations and helping with receipting and all of those other things on the back end.
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, we're the quiet support to your campaign. We help to amplify the message, of course, because we love what you're doing, and we provide that back end support so you can just focus on what you're doing, which is mobilizing folks in the community to help, and we'll take care of the back end, processing the donations, the receipts, and more importantly, taking the money in your fund and investing that for growth.
450 funds you had mentioned earlier. This is a number that I want to kind of drill in on here because I said at the outset, Dan, that really you and the Waterloo Region Community Foundation helped Jen and I realize a dream of ours. And this started many, many years ago. And to be honest, initially, it was prohibitive for us because we wanted to have this fund that would, in perpetuity, support families in our community who are navigating a life with cystic fibrosis. But the barrier to entry to creating a fund was well beyond the means of simple folks like us. So what changed, and what does a typical, if you will, fund holder look like at the Community Foundation today?
Yeah, I mean, our fund holders reflect the community that we have. We have fund holders as young as in their 20s and all across the ranges of age, financial means, different backgrounds, and everything that reflects our community. Now to come and set up a fund at the Community Foundation, it's a $5,000 minimum for a fund to be operational, and folks can even take some time to get to that amount if they need to. We want to inspire the next generation of philanthropists, and that means that we need to get in front of them sooner and want to make sure that what we do is accessible across the board. And that is very different than how community foundations may have originally been started, where they were seen to be for only those in sort of the ultra high net worth sphere. Now the Community Foundation has a space for everybody to be part of the work that's happening.
Is there a common thread that ties together those folks who are interested in establishing funds?
Yeah, I would say, Mike, the folks that come to our door are folks that care about the community, pay attention to the issues, have a big heart, and a desire to make change.
So how does it work then? Once we establish a fund, Dan, what is the process like from there?
Yeah, so I mean, we can use the Farwell for Hire Fund as an example. We established that fund in April of 2020 after some great conversations. And what happened with your fund, and typically what happens is someone will come in and determine that they're ready to be strategic about their philanthropy and view it with a longer term lens. So they will make a donation to a fund and get that established. That donation is then invested, and the earnings from that investment then go back out into the community. And in your case, and in most of our funds' cases, in perpetuity. These are meant to live forever and provide support forever based on the investments, the earnings from the investments on the fund.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up the Farwell for Hire Fund as an example, because I'm happy to share that. And I want folks to understand, we make this annual appeal, help us out, here's how you can donate to the fund. And then that fund not only grows, but the investment within it, the returns on that investment also increase over time. And the in perpetuity is the part that is really appealing, because we know that every dollar that's going into this fund now will forever continue to generate a return, and in our case, help those families navigating a life with cystic fibrosis. What if somebody didn't have the same laser focus that we had coming in? We knew this was all about cystic fibrosis and research and helping families. What if we didn't have that kind of lens to start with?
Yeah, actually, for the folks that don't have that lens, we are the perfect partner to support. The Community Foundation spends a lot of time with charities understanding the needs in the community. So we are the perfect support for folks that don't really know what they want to do yet. And we can help them navigate the needs in the community based on theme areas that they're passionate about, be that children or education or the environment or animal welfare. And we can help them navigate the needs in the community in those spaces. So we are best served for folks that don't really know where to start, but they just know they want to help.
Any chance, I mean, I didn't ask you to prepare any numbers specifically, but you know, like what the Community Foundation grants back to the community on an annual basis? I know we get a report as a fund holder, but what does that look like for the community?
Yeah, we grant back somewhere between $7 to $8 million annually. We manage assets of around $180 million, and we do a bit of that on behalf of other charities, but mostly on behalf of our fund holders. And it allows us to grant within that range or more as we continue to grow. And again, to your point, that's annually, and because of the financial model that backs that up, we will do that forever and ever and ever. And I think that's something that the community can rely on. It's a sustainable funding source that no matter what else is happening in the external environment, communities can rely on their community foundation to be there to support them, even in the toughest of times.
And, you know, communities that can rely on these community foundations. And in our case, then Cystic Fibrosis KW, our local chapter, the same night you and I were having the conversation that led to this one this morning at our launch party, I also spoke with the volunteers at Cystic Fibrosis KW chapter, and they were so grateful that the Farwell for Hire Fund cranked out $26,000 just from the investments made on the total in the fund last year, and they can add that to our annual fundraising total from the Walk to Make Cystic Fibrosis History, which happened on May the 31st when I was gallivanting in Kelowna with some hockey club. But that money now, even if the fund level never changed, if the investments returned similarly year over year, $26,000, this local charity can count on that money coming out of the fund.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, since you shared some numbers, I'll share a few back to you. Since we created the fund in 2020 with you, there's been over $760,000 donated into the Farwell for Hire Fund that's managed at the Community Foundation. We have granted out of the fund $275,000 back to cystic fibrosis. But you have a fund balance of over $620,000. So that asset is where you've got the perpetual investment, and that's what's going to earn. And we grant out of our funds a minimum of 5% annually to get back out into the community. So one day, when Mike Farwell decides to retire from the Farwell for Hire campaign, this fund will allow the annual support to continue to cystic fibrosis without you having to do the work. And I think that's the part when we talked 6 years ago that made setting up the perpetual endowment really special.
Am I really going to retire someday, Dan?
Well, that's what I said, if and when. But to know that this happens in the background, and to know that if you needed to take a year off, or something changed in the campaign or the environment changed, the support to your favorite charity will live on forever. That's why I wanted to selfishly have this conversation on the show, so folks had this understanding that every dollar that we fundraise, there's no overhead for Jen and I. It goes straight into this fund, and then that dollar continues to generate dollars. So we are forever supporting families in this community who are navigating a life with cystic fibrosis. That is period, full stop, the end of the story. Every dollar continues to generate more dollars for the future. And on that note, I just wanted to recognize TLC Pet Food in New Hamburg, which put up a matching $10,000 donation, the Father's Day Farwell for Hire Challenge, the match until June the 21st, this coming Sunday, Father's Day. But that $10,000 goes into the fund. It's matched, so we've got $20,000 into the fund that will forevermore put money into this community to support families navigating cystic fibrosis. And it was important for me to share that, and you can explain it so well, Dan. You used the word retire a moment ago. What about another word that is somewhat similar, but expire? When I'm gone, when the Farwells are no longer, what becomes of this? Yeah, and so we manage the fund for you. And so we do a lot of succession planning with folks and with families. And sometimes that just means, when I'm gone or when I no longer, have the energy to sort of do this work anymore, the fund is happening in the background, and we just continue to make those grants every year to cystic fibrosis on your behalf. We would leave the fund open if anybody wanted to make donations. They can continue to do that. You can step away from the work, and we will take care of the work for you. My ultimate goal is to have this thing fund the cure before I expire or retire. So these are the things that we are aiming towards. This is how the dollars that you invest in us, in our cause, through the Farwell for Hire Fund, continue to support families in our community. If somebody listening, Dan, has been so inspired by listening to this today and wants to join those 450 plus fund holders at the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, how do they do it? Yeah, I mean, as simple as you can go on our website, or you can send me an email, dan@wrcf.ca. I am happy to chat with anybody. There is no cost, no obligation. It's just an exploratory conversation to better understand what your desires are in the community and how we may be able to be a partner in that work. And for us, it was cystic fibrosis. It was easy to identify. But as you mentioned, whatever that cause happens to be that you would like to help, the void may be in the community, that's where you can direct your funds as well. Yeah, so much of the work that we do is understanding the needs of the community. There's folks from our team that are at some charities event every day, often multiple times. I'm sure there's folks right now that are out at working with some charity right now. And so, a big part of our existence is to help people navigate the complex, complicated charitable sector in our community. I'd referenced before, there's upwards to 1,000 charities and nonprofits. And it's hard for people sitting at home to know where to start. So if you don't know where to start with Waterloo Region Community Foundation. I like that idea. And that email address Dan shared is really easy. dan@wrcf.ca. Just thinking back, Dan, on where this journey started for Jen and I, where initially the barrier to entry was too large for us. That's been changed, so these funds are that much more accessible. As somebody who operates in the role you do, the Director of Philanthropy at the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, what do you make of sort of the evolution of this community foundation and how much it has grown to now greater than 450 different fund holders? I've been associated with the foundation as an employee for 7 years and a volunteer for a few years before that. It's been fascinating to watch us evolve as an organization to really support everyone in our community and be of service to everyone in the community. We have fund options that can suit everyone's need, including non-permanent for folks that want to make a splash in a shorter period of time. And we just, we love to chat with everybody who cares about the community, and there's probably some way that we can help guide you through that journey.
Love the work that you do, and truly, and I'm glad we get to do this in a more public way. Cannot thank you enough for helping us realize this dream, and to the community. Hopefully, this gives you a better idea of what it's all about and how every dollar that you donate in support of our efforts through the month of Farwell for Hire stays in the community and continues to support those families right here in our community. Dan, Robert, thank you very much for what you do and for making time for the show today.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure supporting you and Jen through this journey. We love working with you. It's a great campaign, and you guys are a dream.
Well, you say that, but let's be like, we disrupted some things when we first got here, Robert. We really did. You brought us an opportunity that was brand new to us, and you gave us a chance to look beyond ourselves to find ways to help. And because of that, we have the ability now to help so many other people that we wouldn't have been set up to help before. It's been a great partnership. Thank you again, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mike.
Dan Robert is the Director of Philanthropy with the Waterloo Region Community Foundation. Reach out to him, Dan at wrcf.ca, if this inspires you in any way. Drop me an email. You know how to get in touch with me, too, and we can talk more about this. But it's been a fantastic partnership that has helped my beloved and I realize a dream of the Farwell for Hire Fund that you so generously support during this month of fundraising. It's the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, a little bit self-serving, I will acknowledge, but hopefully gives you an understanding of what the Farwell for Hire Fund is all about, and how, with the support of the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, we, my beloved and I, are able to do what we do for families in this community who are navigating a life with cystic fibrosis. And your contributions, like you are doing all of this too, right? Your contributions to the Farwell for Hire Fund are forever. Every dollar just continues to generate more dollars and will continue to do so in perpetuity, as in forevermore. And we are so grateful to you as a community for rallying around this fund, this opportunity, and making sure that folks who are navigating this life with cystic fibrosis have our support as a community. We couldn't have done it without the Community Foundation. We couldn't do it without you. The website, if you are so inspired, is wrcf.ca/Farwell for Hire. That's the number 4, hire. wrcf.ca/Farwell for Hire. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Safe to say that it's been a very busy time on our roads. You've been hearing for the last while in our traffic reports of a 5-vehicle collision on Highway 6 at Morriston. And of course, we know of the tragedy over the weekend where not 5 vehicles, but 5 people killed, young children ranging in age from 4 to 12 in Mapleton Township. They were residents of Elmira. And it is just a tragic coincidence, nothing more, but Ontario Provincial Police in the West Region, which is the area that covers ours, had intended to launch this week a safety blitz aimed at drivers on rural roads. It is called Stop, Look, Live. And here to talk more about it with us is Sergeant Ed Sanchuk, who's a coordinator of media services with OPP West Region. Ed, thank you for the time. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Stop, Look, Live. What's this safety campaign all about?
Well, it's a campaign in response to ongoing concerns surrounding fatal and serious collisions at intersections across West Region here in southwestern Ontario. And intersection-related collisions continue to have devastating consequences for individuals, families, and communities. And since May of 2025, West Region has responded to 3 separate fatal collisions, each claiming 5 lives. And people need to remember these are just not numbers. They represent people whose lives were cut short and families who continue to live with unimaginable loss. So from June 15th, Monday, to June 21st, OPP officers across southwestern Ontario will focus on both enforcement and public education, targeting behaviors such as failing to stop at stop signs, failing to yield the right of way, and inattentive driving, because every intersection presents a critical decision point for drivers. So taking an extra moment to stop and look can and will save lives.
I watched some of the videos that OPP had posted around this campaign, Ed, and it seems clear. And I guess we get a little bit lazy, don't we, when we're behind the wheel and maybe it's not a complete stop. And this is trying to remind us that not only the complete stop, but then taking that moment while stopped to look to ensure the way is clear is so critical in these situations.
It is extremely critical. Failing to fully stop, commonly referred to as a rolling stop, may appear to save some time, but it significantly increases the risk of a collision. And in many cases, these decisions are made in seconds, but can result in consequences that last a lifetime. And, it's one of these things where when you have your first responders attending these tragic incidents, along with Good Samaritans, small communities, most of the first responders know the individuals that are involved. So as first responders, we take a piece of this crash with us each and every time. And what people don't get to see is how police now knock on loved ones' doors saying their family members are not coming home as a result of a preventable crash. So we're just putting this reminder out to please stop when you come up to stop signs. You want to stop, you want to look twice, it's going to save a life and prevent a crash. You're going to want to get across that intersection safely, and you're going to want to live. Coming to work yesterday, I had an individual pull directly right out in front of me. They were at a two-way stop sign. They had the stop sign. I had the right of way. And at the last second, they pulled out directly in front of me, and I was doing approximately 80 kilometers an hour. And we were able to avert a crash, because if we didn't, it probably would have been a bad day for everybody involved. And it really comes down to the fact when I stopped this driver and had an opportunity to speak to them and educate them, they indicated they didn't see me. So they're indicating that their A-pillar was in the way. Well, I'm here to let you know that if you come up to an intersection and you're sitting with a passenger, make sure you look around your passenger. Make sure you look around that A-pillar. If it takes you 2, 3, 4 seconds before you even proceed, checking both ways to make sure it's clear, do not worry about the impatient driver behind you. You want to make sure you clear that intersection safely, because all we want people to do is get to where they're going safely, but more importantly, just get home safely to their family. That's all we can ask.
Why the focus on these rural roads and rural communities, Ed? Is there something about the behaviors that you as OPP are seeing on our rural roads that makes this the target or the focus area?
Well, we need to really look at the actual intersections itself, rural and in non-rural areas as well. We know we are in the summertime right now. We do have individuals coming in to enjoy, what communities have to offer, especially if they're destination spots. But a lot of people are just not focusing on the task at hand, which is driving. And we need people to get back to basics. Anytime you get behind that wheel, you're focusing 100% on the task, which is driving. You're putting all the distractions away. You're making sure you're wearing your seatbelt. You're not aggressively driving or speeding. You're not impaired by alcohol or drugs, and you're not distracted, right? So we really want people to take those few extra seconds at the stop sign. It's a simple decision that can prevent a devastating outcome. And we are going to continue enforcement efforts throughout the week to ensure compliance and improve road safety. But even if you are not, or even if you are familiar with the roadways, just slow down, reduce your speed, and just make sure you're paying attention to your surroundings at all times. It's so important, because in all honesty, we're losing lives at intersection-related crashes that are truly preventable. And we just need people to focus, pay attention, and just to come to a complete stop.
You mentioned earlier the impact on emergency responders, Good Samaritans who may be nearby and end up knowing people who were involved in these collisions, possibly. We heard some of those stories coming out from the weekend crash in Mapleton Township. Oftentimes in these rural areas, we've got volunteer emergency response services that are called out to these scenes. What goes into the investigation into collisions like this, Ed?
Well, obviously, we'll bring in our media, our subject matter experts, such as our time team, our traffic incident management enforcement team, and they will basically dissect that crash and put everything back together, put the piece of the puzzle back together. And people need to realize that it does take time. It just doesn't happen overnight. So this investigation is in its early stages and is far from over. But we are asking anyone that may have information to please contact police at 1-888-310-1122. But what really goes into the investigations is what people don't get to see behind the scenes, and that's knocking on someone's loved one's door. And that family, when you knock on their door, is never, ever the same. Their life changes forever. It never goes back to what it was. And unfortunately, we've done that time and time again. And it's our hopes that through the course of this campaign that we alert drivers to their behavior, making sure they're aware of their surroundings, and letting them know that their driving behavior is not only putting themselves at risk, but putting other innocent motorists, pedestrians at risk. So driving is a privilege, it's not a right, and roadways are communities with themselves that we all need to share, so we need to do it responsibly and safely so that we don't have to knock on anyone else's door. Majority of the crashes, that we deal with are all preventable. And it really comes down to the fact that, reduce your speed, pay attention to your surroundings, and just drive safely. Driving is a privilege, it's not a right, but we need people to not take that for granted and not take their safety for granted as well, thinking nothing's going to happen to them. I'm usually never at a loss for words. I've been a police officer for 28 years. I've seen a lot of horrific crashes. And again, this particular crash it really hits home, not as a police officer, but as a father. I can't even imagine what the family's going through and what the community's going through as well. And having that knock on your door, it's just something that you never want to have happen to you.
Ed, I really appreciate you making time for the show this morning. Thank you for being here.
No worries. Thank you. And please drive safe, everyone.
Sergeant Ed Sanchuk is a coordinator of media services with OPP West Region. That last point will stick with you for a while, right? Not even just as a police officer, but as a father. 5 young children's lives lost in a tragic collision in Mapleton Township. Irrespective of that, provincial police in West Region, our region here, were planning on launching and did launch yesterday this rural road safety blitz. Stop, look, live. The 3 words to remind us how important it is when traveling, particularly on rural roads, because speeds are higher, right? Ed shared the anecdote of just yesterday. He's traveling at 80 kilometers an hour, and at an intersection where there was a stop sign and he had the right of way, somebody pulled out because they didn't see him thanks to that A-frame on the front of their vehicle. I get that. We've all been there as drivers. We're trying to peer around it. And you've heard me say this on myriad occasions in the past. We're just in such a hurry. And I don't know how or why or what happened when I changed my behavior. This was many years ago because I was forever running late. It is so rare now. I'm proud of that. I'm sorry if that sounds like I'm bragging. Maybe I am, but I am proud of not running behind anymore. If you're not 5 minutes early, you're already 10 minutes late. And it used to be I would be on my way to an event or scheduled to be somewhere, and I would leave probably about 5 minutes before I was supposed to arrive. I don't know why I had that in my head. It's just, it's a 5:30. Okay, so 5:25, I'm leaving. No, I'm supposed to be there by 5:30. So now I bake in a lot more time, so I'm rarely in a rush. And what a world of difference that makes on the road. It really does. I don't feel panicked. I don't feel rushed. And to another point that Sergeant Sanchuk made, I'm not worried about the impatient driver behind me. I'm really not. If you're in a hurry, that's a you problem. But I promise you, it is a dramatically different experience on the road if you are not in a rush to get where you're going. I know some of us just like that speed and we have that need for speed, to quote Top Gun, but oftentimes I think we put ourselves in these positions because we're running behind for this thing, that thing, or the other thing. It's far too important. And driving is so much more enjoyable when you're not rushing to get there. So if we can take a moment to ensure that our vehicle comes to a complete stop, we have looked to make sure the way is clear. Those seconds that it takes to do that might extend by many, many, many more seconds our lives because we have taken the time to ensure it's safe to move through that intersection. Stop, look, live. The OPP safety campaign launched yesterday and targeting our rural roads in this area, the West Region, patrolled by the Ontario Provincial Police. Let's just take some extra time out there. It is well worth it. We'll just slow down a little bit, make sure we get there safely. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Okay, so here's what you do. You see, you take one of our local German clubs, You put together a little Taste of Germany event because who wouldn't love some schnitzel, some wurst, some spätzle? Oh, I love me some spätzle. And you combine that, of course, with the good old FIFA World Cup of soccer, and you have got yourself a time. And that time will be had at Hubertushaus and Transylvania Club this coming Saturday, the 20th, the Taste of Germany. And here to tell us more about it is our good friend, Frank K. We call him Frank K because I won't even try to pronounce his last name. He's the entertainment director at Hubertushaus. Frank, good morning.
Good morning, my dear friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, sir. How are you?
I am doing absolutely fantastic. Not going to lie to you, a little busy, but we're doing good.
Well, little busy because what a combination, right? You bring together some traditional German dishes on the menu, you combine it with a World Cup soccer viewing party, and you've got yourself an event on Saturday.
We have a very big event on Saturday. We have been trying to recreate a little Bavaria, I guess, in our lovely little hall. So between us and Transylvania, we have gone out of our way to make sure that this is going to be a fantastic event. The doors open at 1:30, but however, we understand, like, people might get excited, come a little bit, few minutes earlier, and you know what? We will not say no. We're going to have, now, believe it or not, we've actually got the Transylvania Club's Hofbrauhaus band playing from 2 to 3 as well. There's a little bit of a keg tapping, and then the game will start at 4. And because I know you and I talked last year, we definitely made sure that there was a lot of spätzle.
Oh, yes. Well done.
Because I know you were upset we didn't have it for the Christmas market, but I said, hey, listen, we've got to come through, and we got to do this right.
Well,
so we've got a ton of it waiting to be eaten.
I'm just being selfish, Frank. It is one of my favorite dishes, and Hubertushaus is my favorite place to get it. So I appreciate you. But it's a great day. Doors open 1:30. You can enjoy the food, enjoy the soccer match. I mean, what a way to spend a Saturday.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? We've really kind of gone out of our way with the dishes. We've got a very, we like to refer to the Taste of Germany. However, it's very traditional food. And we also have platters for bigger groups and whatever. And like I said, we're really trying to create a very Bavarian sort of type feel. You come in, there's picnic tables set up. You just sit wherever, you chit-chat with ever. If you've ever been to any of the halls in Munich, that's what we're going for this year. So we're hoping to see as many people as we can out there, celebrate your pride. I mean, we also got a game on help me out here, Thursday. We've also got a showing on Thursday.
There you go.
The Canadian team playing. So, but we're doing it all. We're doing it all this year.
Well, and let's talk a little bit more about doing it at this time of year, Frank. You mentioned the Hofbrauhaus band that's going to be playing. A little keg tapping is happening. These are things that we would traditionally associate with the Oktoberfest celebration in late September, early October, around Thanksgiving here in the community. But you folks at Hubertushaus, in partnership with Transylvania Club here, are year-round keeping this, Bavarian spirit alive in our community. And these clubs don't close their doors for the other, 11 months of the year.
No, we don't. We try to keep everything moving and try to keep it open as best as we can. So we come up with events throughout the year. We have our big picnic coming up. We also have our Christmas markets, but we're always trying to come up with a new idea to make sure that our heritage, basically what Kitchener Waterloo was always known for, still is that and remains that. So it's very important to us to keep this going year round.
So just so we're clear on this is happening at Hubertushaus out on Bleems Road, yes?
Absolutely, yes.
Good.
Transylvania is assisting us, but it will be at Hubertushaus.
Okay, so that's on Saturday starting at 1:30. Is this open to the public, Frank? How do we get involved here?
Basically, you just got to show up with a big smile. If you want to wear your Trockton, more than welcome to. Support your colors. And come on out and just have a good time. It's open to everyone. It's not an exclusive members only or whoever. Anyone is welcome.
And you said support your colors. Now, there will be no soccer hooliganism here, right? We're all going to get along.
Well, I don't make promises for myself, but for other people, yes, it would be no hooligans. I think we'll be good with that.
All right. Frankie K might be our only hooligan on Saturday at Hubertushaus. But how do we feel about Germany's chances at the World Cup this year, Frank?
You know what? That's long story short, every time they scored a goal on the last game, I was in the kitchen and it kind of missed it all, but I think they're going to do good. I believe they may end up taking it. But watching them, the way they played the first round was unbelievable. So I'm hoping that they go all the way through and the World Cup sits back in Germany again.
It sounds to me like maybe we've figured out a little secret weapon here. You just need to stay busy in the kitchen, keep working on all that spätzle while Germany scores goals out on the pitch, you see?
And you know what? And that's the way it worked out. As a matter of fact, I even think the fans that were there at the last game were saying, stay in the kitchen if they keep scoring goals. So, I couldn't believe it.
Frank, I love what you've put together here. I love the opportunity for the community to really enjoy this and tying it in with a watch party. Fantastic stuff. Thanks for being here today and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you so much. And like I said, hopefully we'll see you down there and then Splitz is on me.
All right. Sounds great, Frank. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. You too. Bye-bye. Bye. That is Frank K., because he doesn't even make me try to pronounce his last name. Great guy, the entertainment director at Hubertushaus. Look, it's a great way to spend a Saturday if you are remotely interested in the World Cup of Soccer. And around here, I'm sure there is a lot of support for Team Germany. Yes, of course, there's support for Team Canada and others. I get it. I've seen the flags on your vehicles, but we do have our Germanic roots after all, and I just love what they're doing out at Hubertushaus. This Saturday, it's the Taste of Germany. The Transylvania Club is helping out here at Hubertushaus on Bleems Road, just as you get into Mannheim. Doors open at 1:30. The Transylvania Club's Hofbrau Band will play from 2 until 3. The kickoff of the Team Germany game is at 4. And while you're there, yes, you are enjoying some traditional Bavarian dishes. We've got schnitzel with spätzle. We've got currywurst with fries. We've got potato pancakes with sour cream. I mean, spätzle poutine? Why didn't I notice that earlier? Spätzle poutine. Are you kidding me? All takes place on Saturday. Doors open at 1:30. Hubertushaus on Bleems Road with a FIFA World Cup viewing party. I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then, have you heard about the changes coming to auto insurance in Ontario? Listen up. We're talking about them next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I would certainly put this into the category of things you need to know. And that is a couple of weeks from now, on July the 1st, there are changes coming to the way automobile insurance is managed here in Ontario. Some coverages which have been mandatory, automatic coverage based on provincial legislation, are no longer going to be automatic. And if you would like to continue having that coverage, you will have to opt in and, of course, pay for said coverage. Helping us understand better these changes, we're joined by Nick de Koning, who's a partner with Deutschman de Koning Law. Nick, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thanks very much for making the time to talk about something that I know many people will be interested in learning more about, or learning about for the first time, perhaps, if they didn't know these changes were coming. What should we know about the changes coming to automobile insurance in this province effective July the 1st?
So just to take a step back for a second to give you the 30,000-foot view on this, the way automobile insurance compensation works in Ontario for a car accident is basically a two-part system. A person has recourse to what's referred to as no-fault benefits or statutory accident benefits, and that's typically delivered through the person's own insurance. And then there's a second part, which is a lawsuit-based system. We call that the tort system, not tort as in cake, but tort as in civil wrongs, and one can sue for damages on that side of things. But coming back to the no-fault part of things, this system has existed in one form or another since about 1990. And the system we have currently was introduced in large part in 1996 when Mike Harris was premier, and with considerable tinkering over the past 30 years by the provincial government of the day, be it a Liberal government or a Conservative government from time to time. But for the most part, the tinkering has involved taking coverages away, on the basis apparently of making the insurance more affordable. But basically the gist of it is that certain things that were mandatory part of the coverage for car accidents will now be eliminated and marketed as a strictly optional type coverage. Now, just to be clear, as of July 1st, the elimination of these benefits as mandatory will be tied to a person's renewal date. So that means that, if the renewal date, which comes once a year generally, is after July 1st, then the change will be effective on the renewal date, not on July 1st for the particular consumer. But I mean, it's potentially a significant impact on a lot of people because although there's a number of no-fault mandatory benefits that are being eliminated, the big one is the income replacement benefits, which is basically like a weekly disability benefit that pays a person, without regard to fault for the accident based on being unable to work. So that's a big one. So what the elimination of that benefit is going to do is essentially download the costs of people being off work to one's own savings potentially, but also to things like EI, Ontario Works, Canada Pension Plan, things like that, but or work benefits like long-term disability.
So with that being eliminated, Nick, the idea would be, I suppose, that our premium gets a little less expensive, but I have to think on the other side of that, heaven forbid we're involved in a crash, saving any money on that benefit up front is going to cost us rather dearly down the road.
Well, that's the whole rationale, the whole mindset of offering no-fault benefits in the first place. I mean, back in the 1990s, the provincial legislatures were wrestling with these very issues, but the whole point of it is, although it's somewhat paternalistic, Big Brother looking out for the average person, the idea of it was that there would be certain coverages determined by law that would be automatically included into the standard auto policy and delivered to the consumer, and people didn't even have to know the details of what those coverages were, but the coverages would be there to assist the person if they were in an accident. And, weekly disability benefit would be one of those things. Now, I'll say this, that the standard coverage for what is referred to as income replacement, which is the weekly disability benefits, it's capped at $400 per week unless the person has optional coverages. So, that's a daily or weekly conversation over here in our firm is, well, why is it $400 a week and who benefits from, such a low amount? But it's been $400 a week since 1996, and it's just never been adjusted for inflation. But even though a relatively modest amount, it's still, a lifeline or considerable assistance to a person who's been involved in a bad car accident. Because keep in mind, if you have a viable lawsuit against the at-fault motorist, you can pursue your claim for wage loss or income loss there, assuming the other person's at fault and certain other criteria are met. But that process can go on for a very long time. The whole point of no-fault benefits is it's delivered quickly, promptly. The insurance company treats the injured person as a customer and a client, not an opponent or an adversary. And so the whole no-fault system we've had for many, many years is little by little being dismantled, I think.
Why is the province making these changes?
I would assume, it's the pressures on affordability of the insurance products. That's been, an issue for many decades. Insurance companies have complained about the cost of administering these systems for many, many years. And staffing these claims and paying out benefits over long periods of time, sometimes months or years. Keep in mind, a no-fault claim can be open for many years. The benefits are potentially payable to age 65 and beyond if certain criteria are met. So the justification to reduce the coverage is always to make car insurance more affordable. But is your car insurance getting more affordable over time? Many people are dismayed to find out that in 2026 or even 2025, there's much less coverage available through the no-fault benefits than there was, say, in 2009, for example, or 2002. I became a lawyer in 2003, and the whole system has been slowly eroded over time. But to answer your question, I assume it's to keep premiums lower and more affordable, and that's a worthy objective. I mean, everybody's concerned about affordability, but there's got to be a balance between affordability and protecting the consumer, in my opinion.
So what's your best advice, Nick, to the auto insurance consumer today as these changes are going to take effect?
When you get your renewal in the mail, look at it carefully. The Insurance Bureau of Canada has actually put out a bunch of stuff. It's in the public domain for the person who's interested in searching it out. But there's fact sheets for what Ontario drivers need to know that are available. And so these kind of fact sheets and consumer information are supposed to be distributed, to the consumer by insurance companies. So read your renewal information carefully and see what you're getting. Now, here's the thing. In the past, a person's work benefits were always primary anyways. That's actually changing to make auto insurance primary and work benefits secondary. So that's another subtle change to all this, how this system works. But a person who has, for example, short-term disability and long-term disability is pretty reasonably covered, depending on what the payments actually are. It's the person who doesn't have access to work benefits that really needs these benefits and really would be well advised to take a closer look at the coverages and maybe even consider buying up even more than what used to be mandatory and now will be optional at $400 a week. You can buy up optional coverages of $600, $800, or $1,000 a week for income replacement. The point being, I think, be an informed consumer, know what you're getting. And for some people, one may not be so concerned about these benefits, but for other people, they're absolutely vital.
Nick, really appreciate your insight on this and helping us get ready for the changes ahead. Thanks very much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Nick de Koning is a partner in Deutschman de Koning Law, joins us to talk about the changes coming to the automobile insurance industry here in Ontario. And if you're watching on Rogers TV Cable 20 today, maybe you can see the steam coming out of my ears. I don't know. It's got nothing to do with Nick. He's providing great information for us. It's important information. What gets my chaps chafing here is this idea that there are changes coming that will require less from the insurance companies. So, sure, on the surface, I guess, if, and I'll make this a big fat if, because I remember it was one of the election campaigns, wasn't it? I just know that Dalton McGuinty, one of my least favorite premiers in the history of this province, I'm not even kidding, like Bob Ray, Dalton McGuinty, put those two side by side. Ask me which one my least favorite was. Holy. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was during a campaign, but the Ontario Liberal government promised that insurance premiums would come down by 10 or 15, 20, whatever the percentage was. Bottom line is, and you know as well as I do, the premiums never came down. Never came down. I cannot remember truly the last time my automobile insurance came down in cost. And I also can't remember the last time I made a claim for anything, but they never come down. They never come down. So learning that insurance companies now will be required to pay out even less if or when these coverages are changed, and that's supposed to save us money, maybe $10 a month, the analysts suggest. So is saving $10 a month or $120 a year worth losing out on the benefit of the $400 a week in income replacement, for example? These are decisions that we're going to have to make, which is the other thing that really gets the chaps chafing here, because it's just such a big game. And it shouldn't be. This should not be so complicated for the consumer, in my opinion. You may know, if you've listened to this show for more than 5 minutes, that I have had in the past a tendency to enjoy some gaming at casinos. And I'm a guy that likes numbers, and I know that the house always wins. But boy, oh boy, you can bet your bottom dollar that I invested heavily in my spare time trying to figure out ways that I could either eliminate the house's advantage or at minimum reduce the house's advantage. For the record, it's not possible. The house always wins. They've got a whole team of people way smarter than us. Well, smarter than me anyway. But I feel it's similar with the insurance industry generally, right? They've got so many different people calculating this thing, that thing, and the other thing. Insurance companies continue to reap tremendous profit, and we on the other end, when's the last time you made a claim that was seamless, that you didn't feel like you had to fight tooth and nail to get approved and get this and get that or get the other thing out of what you're paying into it? You believe, you understand that this is why you're paying the insurance and this is the coverage you have until you need it, and then you realize, well, you mean I don't have that, or I have to fight for that and I have to invest all this time and energy into getting what I thought I was already paying for? I find it incredibly frustrating. Maybe it's just me, but I would love to hear your thoughts on the insurance industry today, particularly automobile, how it has worked for you, and your thoughts on the changes that are coming up. Will this actually reduce your premiums? Not a chance in Hades, says this guy, but I'm always interested in hearing from you. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Changes coming to the way automobile insurance works in this province. They will take effect on July the 1st. In theory, it would appear as though the idea behind the changes are to save you some money on your premiums. I will believe that when I see a big white pig fly past my studio window. I don't believe my auto insurance premiums are ever coming down again, because they haven't come down in goodness knows how long, despite repeated promises that they will. That notwithstanding, we're also going to have less coverage. Some things that have been contained within your standard automobile insurance policy. I got stuck between automotive and automobile. That's my fault. Some things that have been standard within your automobile insurance policy for decades will no longer be standard. So if your renewal date is after July the 1st, that's when these changes will take effect. Talk to the person you have your insurance with. Read the fine print. One of the biggest changes will be the $400 in income replacement that is currently standard in an insurance policy. How's the industry working for you? What have you had to go through if you've been in the unfortunate circumstance of having to call on your insurance policy? 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Stephen, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good.
I should tell you, I did work in the insurance industry for about 30 years. Not in automobile, though, but it makes you familiar with the processes.
Sure.
First of all, I would recommend two things to everyone, and that is, first, call your insurance company and ask them to provide you the documentation, the specifics of what is coming out and what isn't. You have that right to get that before your renewal, so you have time to do it, rather than at the renewal when you're kind of pressured to do it now because they've got a million of them to do, right?
Right.
So that's step one. Step two is, if you don't understand it, don't just get them to tell you. Actually meet with them on your renewal and make them walk you through it. And as far as the income replacement, I'm paying for income replacement that I will never use because I'm retired. I don't have income that goes away if I have an accident. Okay, the only thing that happens there is if I lose my life, I'm covered under life insurance. There's liabilities for that, totally different than income replacement. So those are my comments based on my familiarity with what's happened. And I've already done that and my insurance doesn't come up till September. And I got it the same day. I got the summary and an agreement to meet when it comes due to actually review not just the income, but all the other ones as well.
So ask in advance prior to your renewal date so there's not the immediate pressure, and have them walk you through it so you fully understand.
Exactly. And if you don't understand, don't say okay because you don't think they'll repeat it. Make them repeat it. Make them explain it. Put it in English. Say, give me an example. Do whatever it takes. Right? And the last comment I would make is make sure you get 100% of the pages that are referenced or form part of the policy. The biggest trick with an insurance company is they'll give you a 5, 6, whatever page summary and say, there, that's all you need to know. That's not true. You will see it refers to other documents. You also have the liability and you're covered or not covered based on those documents as well. So you need to understand the whole thing. I did that with my property and home, and I have a farm, so you got barns and everything else. And it's amazing what you find is in there. And I made them sit there and tell me every single minuscule like data information I could possibly think of before I accepted the policy. But there were surprises in there, and there always will be.
It's some great advice. Stephen, appreciate you sharing it with us today. Thanks for calling in.
No problem. Take care.
You too. Good to hear from you. And listen, I admire somebody with that kind of due diligence and the patience to go through it all, which comes back to my earlier point about the big game that it feels like. I don't think something like this should be complicated. What is the purpose of insurance, right? To insure me against really unfortunate outcomes and or circumstances. That's the point. Make it that simple, right? I pay in this much for this much coverage. Forget the fine print. Forget the loopholes. Forget the constant tinkering that Nick de Koning from Deutschman de Koning Law told us about earlier. That would be my wish. But again, that giant white pig hasn't flown past the studio window yet. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is Tuesday, June the 16th, already the third Tuesday of the month. And on the third Tuesday of every month, we have a chat about one of the biggest issues facing our community, and not just ours, but communities clear across this country. That issue is housing. And for the housing conversation, we are joined by Philip Mills, who is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region. Phil, always good to get your time on the show. Thank you for it, and good morning.
Good morning to you. Maybe one day housing won't be an issue and we can just talk about something else.
I would be fine with that. I mean, I don't want to shy away from the problems, but we have been talking about this one for a while. What I've really been enjoying, though, Phil, is it seems to be like a little bit of slice of the Mills life these last couple of conversations. I recall, I think it was just last month, we were talking about your son, the voracious reader. And now this time around, you are inspired by your son, the indecisive one. He can't make up his mind, it seems, between mint chocolate chip or cookies and cream. By the way, the only answer is mint chocolate chip, but I'll leave it right there. But how does your son's indecisiveness make you think of the housing situation that we face?
So, yeah, you're exactly right. That's where my head went. It's that time of year. We're talking about ice cream, and he is... like, he just struggles because he wants everything. And it makes sense. Like, he's not that old. You know, he's 12 and he wants to kind of have his cake and eat it too. And so he struggles when those decisions come up. How do you prioritize? How do you make trade-offs? You know, having this means we can't have that. Having cookies and cream is going to mean that he doesn't get to have mint chocolate chip this time. And sometimes he just sits there paralyzed because he wants all of it. And I think in some respects, that feels like what happens in housing so often, that we have made decisions and then can't accept the trade-offs that we have set out for ourselves, the reality we have created, that we can't have everything in every sort of way. And so we make reasonable and good trade-offs and then get mad when we have to live with the trade-offs we've made.
if I can just stay on the ice cream for a moment, I promise we'll get to the serious stuff. But if your son has not yet discovered Garbage Can, Phil, I've seen it in other places by a different name, but it was what I found at the Harbor Light restaurant on the beach in Port Elgin when I was a kid. It's where they take the remnants of the ice cream tubs that can no longer make one cone and put it all together into one tub. They call it Garbage Can, and you get all the flavors, Phil, in one cone. It's like the best. Tell your boy, get up to the Harbor Light.
Ultimate for indecision right there. I'll have to bring it up with him next time.
And little did I know I was being so indecisive when I fell in love with that ice cream up at the Harbor Light. Anyway, to the matter at hand, I'm so glad that you're bringing this up now, because I think we can look at recent and very relevant examples in our community where we are struggling with that trade-off.
Yeah, it's starting to show up again. And I think, I want us to be clear about it. Let's have, if there's a conversation to be had, but let's know the decisions we've made. We are making what I think are wise choices around things like countryside boundaries. We don't want to sprawl forever. Okay, great. That is absolutely true. We want to protect farmland. 100%. I get that. We want to be really careful around environment. Okay. Those are wise choices, and I think are about stewarding land, stewarding assets. That comes with the trade-off of then the residential land might need to be more dense. There is this space where if we can't do, construction, if we can't build houses on the residential spaces, can't build more, can't build enough, and we've said we're not going to sprawl, we're not going to build on farmland, we're going to be really protective of our environment, which are the, I think, right choices. Those are in conflict. So we made a trade-off. And I think now we're kind of looking at the reality of our trade-off and being upset with it. It's frustrating to see when we talk about, let's put more density in a residential neighborhood, and people are like, I can't be here. Okay, then where should we put it? Because we have rightfully restricted the other places.
And some examples that we've seen in Waterloo, in the Lincoln Heights neighborhood, where the former St. Columba Church is now, the demolition is underway. Residents there are very concerned about the infill, the increased density that's coming there. Rosie, the pandemic pup, and I were out for a walk the other night. There's a yellow ribbon campaign happening not too far from our household, where neighbors are a little bit concerned with a proposed 4 apartment building, not skyscrapers by any stretch, but still 4 apartment buildings will be put onto what is currently the lot for a strip mall. And neighbors start to push back because, as you said, if not here, where? But when it's going to be here, people around here get a little bit frustrated by it.
They do. And I think, I appreciate change is tricky. And I think that people, there is a connotation to that not in my backyard where they say, I'm not like that. That's not me. But this is how that actually works. This is what NIMBYism looks like when you're saying, I get that we need housing. It has to be there. But this one isn't right. Okay, but that is the NIMBYism of the reality. When we say this particular thing isn't right, it's not that every project is perfect. And I don't want to say that all housing has to go everywhere at all times. But when we start talking about residential places for residential housing, we're not talking about putting up, giant, office buildings and industrial spaces in residential communities. This is a residential area. We're talking about bringing residential, housing there. That has to kind of make sense. And I think we were better at this before, to be honest, Mike. I was walking through my old neighborhood in Preston, and it just struck me how varied the housing is there. There are standalone homes, there are apartment buildings, there are row houses and semis. There's a mix of everything. And at a certain point, we've kind of gotten away from some of that. This idea that this is a single detached neighborhood. That never used to really be the way we built things. And it's probably not best for us anyway. There is some value in saying we need diversity of building types. We need diversity of people. That stuff makes wonderful communities. And if we can't put it in a residential neighborhood, where else are we going to put it?
It's funny because I noticed on another walk with Rosie, that's my motivation for getting out of the house and getting some steps, is to take the pandemic pup for a walk. But this was many, many months ago. And we were walking through an older, established neighborhood, lots of the mature trees, the kinds of neighborhoods that people talk about being desirable. And on a corner was, what was it, a triplex, maybe a sixplex? I couldn't tell how many units were within, but it fit right in. And I could tell it had been there for decades. It wasn't any higher than the 2-story homes that surrounded it. And I wondered then, What was the reaction when that particular building was erected? Or was it all done as part of the neighborhood to be, along with these single-family detached homes, we've got a multiplex or a multi-unit building also part of the landscape, and it didn't stand out at all. In our neighborhood, I've noticed more people, but the housing hasn't changed. So I know many of the places that have sold have now been divided into multiple units, probably an upstairs, downstairs sort of thing. So I just wonder, Phil, like what's the overall message here? I think we recognize the need for housing. I think we've all expressed a desire to participate in the movement forward on the housing file. So how do we reconcile it with these trade-offs?
I think we have to be cognizant of the trade-offs we've already made and to accept the reality of the things that we want. That, unless we can find, a bin of garbage can ice cream, we're going to have to pick. And it is tricky for us to protect the environment, protect the countryside boundary, protect, neighborhood character, and to protect parking spaces and shadows and protect all of that and solve this housing crisis. And that's just the reality. If we can't build in a residential space, like we are restricting ourselves to things that are incompatible. We can't do all of it. We can't find the perfect space for something that isn't here, but also isn't there. Like there has to be somewhere for housing. We have to allow for that. There's the community is going to keep growing. I think sometimes we get lost in this idea that whether it be the region or the business community, other folks are trying to make the community grow. The community is going to grow because it's an awesome community. Like Waterloo region is a great place to live. So people are going to keep coming as long as it is an amazing place to live. And so we have to be ready for that. We are responding to the reality that when you create something awesome, people are going to show up. So how do we continue to keep an awesome, thriving community that has housing folks can afford and that doesn't sprawl out so far that we start to destroy things that make this region what it is? The idea of our connection and closeness to agriculture and to our history and all those spaces, we can't destroy that, but people are going to keep coming. So we have to be thoughtful and responsive to that. And I think sometimes we just forget that we made a trade-off. We forget that we picked the chocolate chip ice cream, and now we're just complaining about how all I want is moose tracks. Like at some point along the way, we have to say, we picked something. We chose the environment. We chose to stop sprawl, which I think was the right choice. That means we're going to have to build more dense in residential areas because that's where people live.
We talk a lot about the challenges we've been having getting housing built for a number of reasons. But one we don't often mention, and I think we're getting at here, is attitudes towards the construction of it may be one of the barriers we face today.
Absolutely. It's tough. It is hard when if you're going to try and build something that everybody's going to hate you. If you're going to I think I do, there are some developers who rightfully have earned their reputations. Most of these folks are trying to build, your community, your home was probably built by a developer. Where you live was built by, cities are built by the people who built them. And so this idea that they are out here trying to cause harm or to do something wrong or to make things worse or to make a quick buck, it's tough along the way. And so I think there is something to be said for the difficulty that comes with every time you say, hey, we're going to build housing because we need housing, knowing that the folks around that build are going to be awful. They're going to say, don't do this. They're going to say not here. And they're going to come up with every reason why this shouldn't exist. That is a weight we ought not put on people trying to solve a problem. This is a crisis. We need housing. And that's not to say you can't engage, in good faith and to say, what does good look like in this space? But rarely is it what does good look like in this space. And far more it is nothing should change. We can't build here. It needs to be what it always was. And that's just such a barrier for folks trying to create solutions to this problem, be it not-for-profit housing like Habitat or Build Now, be it, rental providers, or be it for-profit, because we need all of it. We are so short on housing. We need all of this. And if every, development, every push forward is met with resistance, we're just that farther out from getting to a solution.
It's a great conversation as always, and a really important reminder in this at this critical juncture for housing. And on the lighter note, if anything else comes of this, Phil, let your boy know about the garbage can option when it comes to ice creams. It might be the game changer in the Mills household. Okay.
I will certainly pass it along. It's not as though folks inside the office didn't say, Phil, just let him have 2 scoops of ice cream. And I was like, look, I need to make a point here. You don't have to solve the problem, guys. It's an analogy. I will go after the garbage can next time.
Absolutely love it. Phil, appreciate your time as always. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Philip Mills is the CEO of Habitat for Humanity Waterloo Region, joins us on the third Tuesday of every month for a conversation about housing. And it echoes, and Phil puts it far more eloquently than I, but it echoes something I have said for a long time. We have to get used to the idea that our neighborhoods, they are a-changin', and they're going to have to. These are the trade-offs. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We are less than a week away from one of my favorite events of the month. It's got nothing to do with Farwell for Hire. It's got everything to do with my friends at KW AccessAbility. Their annual golf tournament comes up next Monday evening. Edward Farwell is the executive director at KW AccessAbility. Joins the show this morning. Good morning, Edward.
Hey, good morning, Mike.
And along with my buddy Edward, Brett Worley joins us as well, another old friend who's the chair of the golf tournament organizing committee. Brett, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing you both at the Golf Country Club next Monday night for the golf tournament. But Edward, if I can start with you, share with us a little more about what you do at KW AccessAbility. What's the organization all about?
Sure, Mike. So our organization has been around for over 50 years, and we support adults with physical disabilities. A lot of times, people with physical disabilities get fallen through the cracks, and so we're there to help them with all sorts of stuff like different recreational social programs. We have a computer department that teaches people how to use computers and different adaptive devices. And we also do some advocacy and stuff, so we're quite busy.
Now, Brett, I know the golf tournament's coming up on Monday, so 6 days away, very close to now. Actually, 5 we're done. No, yeah, 6 days from today. Anyway, and if people can't golf, you always have innovative and interesting ways to raise more money for KW AccessAbility. And one of my favorites is this helicopter golf ball drop. Is it what it sounds like?
Yeah, it's really that simple. It's a helicopter and a whole bunch of golf balls dropping over the sky. So, yeah.
And it's a great opportunity for folks to get involved because we can buy one of these balls, or I would say more than one, and try to win a $10,000 cash prize?
That's correct. Ideally, more than one. We do 1 for 20, 3 for 50. I had a couple of good friends of both mine and yours from the good old St. Jerome's days that got in early, and one guy threw me $300 before I even got the announcement out of my mouth, and he bought however many that is, 18, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the drop happens next Monday at our events. Now, because we have to do the prep work, we need to get that final bit of sales of golf balls in today by end of day. So timing to be able to chat with you is great today. So if people are listening and want to get in on the action, it's a great, obviously a great charity, but also a great opportunity at a fairly reasonable odd to get $10,000.
Absolutely. So 3 balls for $50. Let's just put it that way. You can do 1 for 20 if you want, but 3 for 50. That's a good value right there. And you are in for these balls to be dropped. And then you determine which one's closest to the pin, right?
Yeah. So we literally we actually have 2,000 golf balls labeled and numbered. So each ball has its individual number. When we sell the 3 for 50, you actually get a set of tickets with your actual ball number on it. And so when that helicopter hovers over at Galt, and we've got this beautiful spot right out in front of the 18th green where the balls get dropped, and whatever ball drops closest to the pin, and we get in there and we measure that ball number, we will instantly know who that ball number is associated with, and they'll get a call. They'll get an invite to the dinner. If they're not already participating in the event, they can come for dinner and get presented a check for $10,000.
I love it. And as you mentioned, the odds are great. It's quite the spectacle to see as well. So somebody's going to make $10,000. And Edward, the most important question then would be, how do we go about getting our hands on those golf balls? Brett mentioned sales continue through today only, and then we got to close them down. So how do we get the balls, Edward?
I'm glad you asked, Mike. We've got a link on our website with all our information. It's basically as simple as either calling our office or emailing us, info@kwaccessability.ca. Don't forget that's accessability.ca. And they can e-transfer the money, or if they're in the neighborhood, bring cash. But we've got everything set up to accept e-transfers too, so it's super easy. And I will be busy sending out their tickets to them once they do that.
Okay, I'm going to remind you that website, KW AccessAbility with an A, KW AccessAbility.ca. You'll find all the information there. 3 balls for $50, chance to win $10,000. Other than that, Brett, how are preparations for the golf tournament coming along?
Yeah, they're good. We've actually been full on the golfer front for probably the better part of a month. But of course, everything that is going to happen happens in the last week. So lots of organization, lots of, making sure that the day that we present to everybody on Monday is going to be great. Galt Country Club, I was actually just out there on the weekend, is in absolutely beautiful shape as always well taken care of by the folks over at Galt. Mike Skimpson is kind of our lead guy over there. So it's going to be a beautiful day, and we're going to be prepared for about 135 golfers.
I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing you both next Monday, and I've been a procrastinator, but I'm going to get my golf balls right this instant. So thank you both for everything you do, and thanks for joining the show this morning.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike, we really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Edward Farwell, the executive director at KW AccessAbility, and Brett Worley, who is the organizing chair of the golf tournament. Look, go to KWAccessAbility.ca and get those golf balls for the great helicopter golf ball drop. You could win $10,000 and support our friends at KW AccessAbility. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
I was just finishing the process of getting my golf balls for the great helicopter golf ball drop, which is happening next Monday at the Galt Country Club in support of my friends at KW AccessAbility. I felt like I rushed Edward Farwell and Brett Worley off the phone, and I did. That's why I feel like I did, because I did. I was doing a very poor job of clock management, and I had poor Matt Hutchison almost a full minute late for the news update at noon. I am not required to do a lot of things on this job. I push a little red button that says on so the microphone works, and that's pretty much it. And I should keep on time so that my colleagues can do their jobs properly and effectively without me interrupting or stealing from their time. So I'm sorry about that. But I just want to emphasize again, look, I get it, because I'm here every day sort of moderating these conversations. There's a lot of need out there. We were talking about housing in the last 30 minutes. We talked earlier in the day about the Farwell for Hire Fund and how it works through the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, and how every dollar that you have so generously donated over the years and continue to donate stays in this community and continues to generate funding for cystic fibrosis research and support for those families navigating a life with cystic fibrosis in this community. That's the whole purpose behind the fund. And during Farwell for Hire Month, I'm out here asking you frequently and reminding you, here are ways you can donate. Will you please help? And you've been great. You've been so great. And then, of course, KW AccessAbility, hosting their golf tournament next Monday night at Galt Country Club. I'm not surprised to hear that it's sold out. It's a really well-run event at a beautiful golf course. And these are important fundraisers for organizations in our community. I was at the Waterloo Wellington Down Syndrome Society Upside Down Golf Tournament last night out at Aris Valley Golf and Country Club, and a great night, $26,000 raised, critical funds to support families in our community who are navigating a life with Down syndrome. So much need. I get it, and there's only so much that we can do, but in the case of something like, Farwell for Hire, you could buy a 50-50 raffle ticket and you get a chance to win a pretty big prize. It's over $90,000 in the jackpot right now, a $45,000 take home. You can get tickets for as little as $10 at cf5050.ca. And I was just on the KW AccessAbility website buying my golf balls for the great helicopter golf ball drop. It's pretty good odds, 2,000 balls being dropped. So you have one of those balls, and the more you buy, the better your chances. But $10,000, a $10,000 prize, that is not too shabby at all. So it's a way to help out and also give yourself a chance at something, and hopefully you can find ways to help out. So please take a moment to visit KW AccessAbility.ca. That's accessibility with an A. AccessAbility. KW AccessAbility.ca. And maybe do like I did. Pick up a few golf balls, and you'll have a chance at that $10,000 next Monday. Get invited to that nice dinner we have. You'll get a sense of what KW Accessibility is all about. And I can tell you about it, or you can participate in this way and learn more firsthand. All right, with that out of the way, and again, I'm sorry for my poor clock management. As we move into our Talkback Hour, where the phone lines are open for your calls with your thoughts on the issues of the day. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. It's kind of a big and open-ended question, but I think this is the way I want to go today because I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the bottom of my belly today. And so the question I'm going to pose to you is this. And I don't usually do much guiding on this, but I bet you're feeling this too. What has gone wrong with our kids? Maybe the better way to ask that question is, where have we failed them? Because I'm telling you, this has been on my mind since yesterday when we had that story of a 12-year-old boy who is now facing a charge of attempted murder in Toronto. That's a charge right now. We'll wait for the case to play out in court, obviously. But just the details of the story that we know. A 12-year-old boy is at the wheel of a stolen vehicle. And that vehicle allegedly driven at a Toronto police officer, injuring said officer, hence the charge for first-degree murder. And along with that 12-year-old boy in said stolen vehicle are two other young boys, 13 and 14 years of age. And by the way, not all three of those suspects were apprehended in the course of the incident in the early morning hours in Toronto the other night. So I'm picturing the 12 or 13 or 14-year-old going back home, into the house, climbing into bed, getting up the next morning for school, and, oh, good morning, son. What did you do? How did you sleep? Like, I know I'm coming through the lens of what my life was like growing up, but I can tell you exactly where I was at the age of 12 or 13 or 14 at 1:30 in the ding-dang morning. And of all of these shenanigans I got up to as a kid, and there weren't really that many. Like, I'm a pretty boring guy. I really am. But of all the shenanigans I got up to when I was a younger lad, none of them involved the theft of an automobile. Listen, I did a few things before I was quote-unquote legally allowed to, including have my first alcoholic beverage. If you want to talk about, watching an R-rated movie before you turn the age of 18, whatever. I did smoke cigarettes for a brief period of time in my late teens. I don't think that Did we even have age restrictions on them back then? Doesn't matter. Something that I did long time ago. Anyway, all of this is to say, like, none of it even came close to this idea of stealing a vehicle, much less a bicycle from somebody else or a baseball bat. I don't know, but I'm starting to wonder. And then you look today, we had 3 schools in our community under hold and secure by regional police because of threats of violence made towards the schools. Now, I don't know anything about the cases other than that. The schools were under this hold and secure. But I'm going to go out on a limb. This is just me hypothesizing right now. This is my own theory. But my gut tells me it was likely a member of that school community involved in the threat of violence towards said school. It is that time of year when exams are going on, you know. This is as old as academic high school days, as far as I know. You make that call and threaten the violence so you don't have to go in and write the exam, or so nobody has to write the exam, or whatever the case may be. So my suspicion is that young people are involved here. I read another story out of Guelph where, again, a 12 and a 13-year-old rob a fellow 12-year-old on the streets of Guelph the other day. I'm just asking the question. This is the question that I am trying to wrap my head around because, again, I can tell you exactly where I was every night of my life when I was 12 years old. And that was in the house that my parents owned and they parented me within. Where have we begun to fail our kids here? What is it that is going on right now? And maybe further to the point, what about the idea here? Because again, these issues are all at their very beginnings. Charges will play out, trials will follow, etc. Sentences will be issued, perhaps. Maybe charges will be dismissed or dropped. I don't know. But what about instead of this being something where the 12-year-olds are prosecuted, what about their parents? What about if the parents were held responsible for these behaviors on our streets, these, in some cases, dangerous, life-threatening behaviors on our streets? Do we hold the parents to account for this as adults in our court system? It's just something that I'm feeling all the feels of. I thought you might too. What is going on with our kids? Where have we gone wrong here? I'm happy to take your thoughts on that during Talkback today, or maybe something else that you'd like to bring to the table. I'm here for the conversations that you want to have too, but that is something that's certainly affecting me today. Again, the numbers are 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Where have we gone wrong with our kids? What are our kids doing anyway? Do we know? Remember that thing that used to come on the TV late at night? It's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? I'm not sure everybody does these days. It's Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I just found myself asking the question today, what's wrong with our kids? Or maybe the more appropriate question is, where have we failed our kids? Because too many kids doing too many really, really bad things in the news for my liking these days. And I mean like really bad things. A 12-year-old in Toronto charged with attempted murder, alleged to be at the wheel of a stolen vehicle that ran down a Toronto police officer. If this isn't an alarm bell sounding, I don't know what is. Or maybe I'm asking the wrong questions or worried about the wrong things. But I'm really feeling these things. I thought I'd bring that forward as a conversation starter on Talkback today. If you want to talk about that or something else entirely, you know I'm here for your conversations as well. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Let's start with Farwell's Force member number 45, Preston Paul. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. We've had this discussion before, as society is falling apart. This is amazing what we hear on the news these days. Like you said, I was 12. We were down the street jumping off of sand piles out of the sand pit. You know, we're playing street hockey in the wintertime. We're playing ball in the summertime. You know, not even those things would never even cross our minds when we were out playing. Like, it floors me. It really does.
What about at 1:30 in the morning, Paul? When you were 12 years old, what were you doing then?
I wasn't out anywhere past, I'll say 9 o'clock at that. 12
Exactly, right? This is the thing, right?
Yep. And, you know, we didn't have a lot of rules, but one of them was don't let the cops bring you home, you know. So that was kind of the fear of you know, the fear of God being put into us when we were younger, right? So, like, we got into trouble, like you say, you know, our window might have got broken and rang a few doorbells and stuff like that. But, you know, that was the extent of it, you know, and it wasn't all the time, you know. We move on, find something else to do, you know. But this destruction and violence, you know, we need to change the laws. We need to clamp down. And again, on the parents, they need to be held accountable. They do. Then that's the problem. If they're not being held accountable and let their kids run, then it's society's problem. We put the onus on them. They'll think twice about letting their kid going out past 10 o'clock at night when they're 12 years old.
Yeah. Paul, I appreciate the call. Thanks for weighing in. And this is the thing. Again, I'm going through the lens of how I grew up, and it seemed to be in my neighborhood generally. I wonder if these particular 12-year-olds have a home that they go home to, or are they in some sort of youth shelter system? Because the family unit isn't what my family unit certainly was. But you want to talk about rules and parenting and stuff. We used to have, like, not just curfew for being home. We had bedtimes that we adhered to. And I can tell you that even at 14 years old, I still had a bedtime well before 1:30. Not just be in the house by, be home by whatever time, be in bed by this time. And we followed that. And I don't know. I worry about the fraying of this social fabric. I really do. Jason, good afternoon.
Hey, Mike. Good to hear. Anyways, no, I agree with you. I grew up in the same demographic that you are. I'm 52. I think you're, 54?
Yep, turning 55 this year.
Okay, fair enough. So, but no, I had a curfew. It was the street lights came on. You went home. You put your pajamas on, took your shower, whatnot. But I can't comprehend how a 12-year-old can grab a vehicle and do that. It's for me, it's just incomprehensible. I just don't understand it.
Jason, I'm with you. It's really well said. I mean, of the things I would have thought to do, Preston Paul talked about some of his shenanigans, you know, some Nicky Nine Doors, some prank phone calls. Of the things that I thought to do, steal somebody's car? Like, not even, would never have crossed my mind. Rick, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, and thanks for making the call.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, you know, I think that's something that isn't talked about a lot that has to be mentioned is the correlation between poverty in our country and crime. I mean, there's a direct link between them, and as we all know, it's harder and harder to live in our society today, and there's more and more people falling through the cracks, and that's the adults that are parents, and then, you know, by and large, the children that are being raised by those people. And it's hard, and I think that there's, you know, the crime is increasing as people are getting kind of falling into that trap that's right across the country. I mean, as it relates to holding the parents accountable, kind of hits home for me a little bit. I have a son who, you know, only a couple of years ago got into some trouble, and I'm an upstanding citizen, volunteer, donate, all that kind of thing, all those things. Got into some trouble with the police. He's in a better spot now, but it had no bearing on how I raised him. It was, he got in with the wrong crowd, made some poor decisions, and, you know, had to learn some hard consequences through that, but has come out of it better. But those are my two comments. Mike, I think it's something that needs to be thought about.
Yeah, Rick, I really appreciate those comments, and I especially appreciate the sharing of your own family story, because you're right. I don't know that it would be a blanket solution here to apply the penalty to the parent. I wonder if in some cases the parent is even home at 1:30 in the morning, because to Rick's other point, I mean, we're struggling. Maybe the parent's doing night shifts. I don't know. Maybe there is no traditional family unit that we have grown accustomed to. And as I said earlier, this child at 12 years old finds themselves a ward of the state, so to speak, somewhere in a shelter system. I don't know the answer, obviously, but clearly there is a problem. These stories don't come up as frequently as they do with the severity that we're seeing without a reason for it. And goodness gracious. And I think the poverty angle or the affordability angle is a good one. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And we've heard lots of stories about this where there are crimes of opportunity because somebody needs some quick cash to what? Get that next hit if they're addicted to a substance, or maybe even just buy food the next time. I don't know. We'll keep taking your calls. It's the Talkback Hour, after all. The Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Your Talkback Hour every day, noon until 1. Open to your ideas, your thoughts on the issues of the day. One, though, that's really hitting me for, I think, a number of reasons, just because I can't quite wrap my head around it. And I worry about what it's telling us, I think, bigger picture. And that is the youth being involved in such serious crimes. We have a young person in Toronto right now, 12 years old, being charged with with attempted murder because it was alleged this boy, this 12-year-old child, was at the wheel of a stolen vehicle, and that vehicle ran down a Toronto police officer. And I think there are multiple issues here. One thing I think we could rightly ask is whether or not the parents should be held criminally responsible and or liable for their children's actions. I think it goes deeper than that, though, and there's no one-size-fits-all here, but I think it's a fair question to ask. If the parents are held liable or held to account for this, does it change the behaviors? Does that somehow motivate the parents? The other part of it is, where are we failing our kids? Because I have a hard time. Like, I know when I was a kid what the outcome for me would have been. I never would have even considered being out of the house at 1:30 in the morning when I was 12. But I think that speaks to the household I was living in and the experience that I had there. I wanted to be there. It was a safe place. I knew what the rules were, and I abided by them. And I think there's something to that, which clearly is missing in this regard. John sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. It's organized crime. They're using kids because the kids get zero time in jail. Sadly, these kids are being cherry-picked and groomed. I don't doubt that for 1 second, John. Not for 1 second. Although in this particular instance, if you see any of the video footage of what happened in Toronto, it doesn't necessarily appear to be the kind of car that one would be inclined to steal. I don't know, but I'm with you on that. I know that organized crime organizations are using young people because the Youth Criminal Justice Act certainly does not punish to a great extent the young offender, right? I get that. But there's still then the vulnerability of these kids to be lured into that. And then John goes on to say, start fining the parents and taking away their social assistance until they get it. Well, that's just a non-starter there. I shouldn't have even read that part. Jonathan's email to Mike at 570news.com says it's not always the parents or guardians' fault. And we had Rick call before and share that very thing. Some children just go astray, Jonathan says, on their own, no matter what the parents or guardians do. Sometimes it's also the influence from getting mixed up in the wrong crowds. And Chris's email to Mike at 570news.com. You grew up in the 70s, I grew up in the 80s, and you come from a family of educators. You know all too well that in the 70s and in the 80s, parents supported disciplining children appropriately, whether that be at home, at school, or at a friend's house. Unfortunately, we have seen far too many parents that are entirely hands-off and feel their children can do no wrong and are not supportive of any consequences whatsoever. This has caused the pendulum to swing entirely too far, to the point where now almost every other child, regardless of parents' views on consequence, they feel a sense of entitlement and untouchability. Chris, I appreciate the email. Thanks for weighing in. Let's go back to the phones here. Your calls on the issues of the day here on Talkback, and one that's bothering me I'm asking about is, what has gone wrong with our children, or where have we failed our kids? Grant is with us on Talkback. Hello, Grant.
Good day. Dad worked shift work, and if I did anything like that the next day, I would have to deal with Dad. So there would be none of that going on with any of the kids, because he would find out, and I never liked going to Dad if I had any issues, because I know he helped me out with my math after school, and that was kind of...
It sounds like a very hands-on father.
Yeah. I found it very very tough doing my math with him, and Mom would intervene, and Dad say, "Burl, I'm helping him out." Yeah. It just seemed to go on for hours and hours and hours and hours, but that's fine and dandy, and that's how he felt that he had to help me out. I'm still not a math genius, but still that it kind of makes you be aware of things, right? So he's... All I remember stealing is a Twinkie from that grocery store on Krug Street. Nectos, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Nectos. And you stole a Twinkie. Not an automobile. But, whether you become a math genius or not, certainly through no lack of support from Dad, who worked shifts, but when he was there, wanted to help with the math homework. As I said, it's pretty hands-on. It reminds me, so I had my best friend's parents. Dad worked shift work, but Mom had a steadier shift. So, we always had some parental figure in the house. And one of my other good buddies when I was a kid, his mom was a nurse, so she was on the shift work, and his dad was like a overgrown kid. But again, there was the parent who was far less strict than the mom who worked shifts. But it didn't mean we were out stealing cars. We just had fewer rules to follow. We ate a little more junk food, and we watched movies we probably shouldn't have been watching, or shouldn't have been, I guess, I don't know, shouldn't have been watching when we were 12, 13 years old. But I don't know. It's a lot different. It's a lot different. And I know change is inevitable, and kids are different today. I get it. But I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about this. Andre, you're on Talkback. What about you?
Well, happy Tuesday, Mike. Beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
And I have to call in on this because, of course, we'll say 99.9 back in the days, we had fantastic parenting. And I'm not blaming on that because even my dad, he had always two jobs for the house. And my mom, well, she would raise her finger or her hand or bite her lips. And it's like, you better not do nothing wrong. And you respected your parents. But today, I would say it's still the same thing for most of us, like you said, because I have an 11-year-old boy now. And we, every night, we try to have a family dinner so we can talk about our day. And when my son comes home, I always say, how was your day? He's a good, okay, I personally didn't need more than that because I know my son, he's emotional. He keeps his feelings inside, and I'm the same way. So we communicate that way. And what I want to say to finish this, Mike, it's a very sad society on this again because the Liberals force both parents to work. And I'll give you an example. One of my neighbors, they both work at Toyota now, and one works night, one next day. So, and they're both tired. It's a very hard because parenting is the biggest job. There's commitment, just like marriage. And I just don't like the fact that everybody has to work, and who cares about the kids? So my daughter is 9, and she comes in when the street lights is on a crescent, and that's about it. So yeah, it's a tough one. But about what you were saying too, Mike, earlier, about the parents should be implicated and stuff like that. Well, that's up to the judge until their day follow up, right? So anyway, have a good walk with your puppy.
All right, Andre, thank you. Rosie and I will take our walk later today. We don't go in the heat of the afternoon anymore. I try to be nice to her that way. But I'm just thinking again on Andre talking about the shift workers at Toyota on alternating shifts. So they're always working one shift and then the next one works the next shift and they're always tired. And that goes back to something Rick was saying earlier that I think is worthy of further exploration, and that is how stretched we all feel financially these days and what's required to keep a household functioning, right? Long gone, at least I believe, are the days where you can really have a stay-at-home parent. Unless the one income is that significant, I suppose. But I do think that plays a part, because when you have the stay-at-home parent, then those family values are implemented on a daily basis and consistently, right? So you know what the rules and expectations are for that family. When you're out and you're working and then you're tired and you're a little less patient and all of the things that come with that, you're feeling all of these pressures. You are not functioning as a parent as well as you could be, and things begin to fray from there. I think there is something to it. And we're all working so ding-dang hard because of those pressures that we feel. Norma's email to Mike at 570news.com says, I believe the issue is with the Young Offenders Act. It's called the Youth Criminal Justice Act now, Norma, just so you know. Similar idea, but it's the Youth Criminal Justice Act. The young people know that at their age, they're not going to be held accountable the same as an adult would. They're likely going to get a slap on the wrist and a tisk, tisk, tisk. The Youth Criminal Justice Act needs to be updated. Well, it has been. That's why it's the Youth Criminal Justice Act now. But I get it. You want stronger consequences for the young people, and I hear you. Tracy's email to Mike at 570news.com. No doubt it's an issue. One problem, Tracy says, is discipline. Back in my day, like you, I knew exactly where I was at 12 years old. Inside before the streetlights went on. And if I wasn't, I was grounded. There was a consequence. There are a billion things today to say to this topic. One thing I would say is if you got in trouble at school, you got into worse trouble at home. Parents and teachers were a team. Huge rabbit hole there. In general, the consequences are just not there anymore for wrongdoings at any level. Small children to heinous crimes committed. How do we begin to correct this hypothetical question? I think that's a good question, though, Tracy. I really do. Somehow, society needs to hit the proverbial reset button and figure out how to discipline again. That's interesting. Actions should have consequences. Do consequences exist anymore? And Sharon's email to Mike at 570news.com. I believe there is a video game called Grand Theft Auto. I don't understand why games like that are allowed. Maybe it's not what it sounds like, but it sounds like it makes theft a fun game. I mean, we've heard since the days of Pac-Man that video games were going to be the end of days for kids. We're going to ruin our brains playing all those video games. I guess Pac-Man wasn't Grand Theft Auto, but I don't know how much weight I put in that one, but an interesting idea, Sharon. I will take one more on the phones before the break. Alexander, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Hey, so my opinion is based on absolutely nothing but vibes. I think that it's a lack of connection to community. I feel like parents are too busy at work. Grandparents aren't around like they're used to. Families are moved across countries and they don't have that sort of support. Teachers are tired with huge classrooms. Like, children, I don't think, have connections to communities like they used to in the past, those big families and the friend groups and extended aunts and uncles. And why would a kid care about their community if they have no connection to the community? I feel like their connections are to things online more, and they care about clout online because of that. I also want to speak to the Grand Theft Auto. I played that game when I was much too young to be playing it, but all I did was drive around and follow like the street signs, and I don't know. I don't think video games are it. That's all.
All right. Listen, really appreciate weighing in, and some great points made there. And it comes, I think if I were to sum up, that comes to the second way I asked this question. Instead of what's wrong with our kids, where have we failed our kids? And I think Alexandra gets into some of those ways that perhaps we have failed our young people. And they're showing how we failed by stealing cars at the age of 12. We'll continue the conversation on Talkback here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It's a big question, but one that the headlines today are forcing us to discuss or confront, I think. What's wrong with our kids? What's going on? 12-year-olds stealing vehicles, driving them in the direction of law enforcement that's intending to stop them from driving away in a stolen vehicle? Or maybe the better question is, where have we failed our kids? Let's get back to the phones. Mike is with us. Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
So far, okay. In regard of children, my opinion is it's lack of education. It's not the Grand Theft Auto. Our son, for example, he's playing Grand Theft Auto since he was about 13 or 14. He will never do such a thing. It's lack of education, period. Children must be able to make the difference between reality and fiction.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So how will more education keep kids from stealing cars, robbing each other on the streets of Guelph? I mean, we're seeing some really concerning things.
It's very true, because it's lack of education. Parents will do anything but spend time with their children. And children today, they have absolutely no idea what you're not allowed means, or you cannot touch this, or you cannot do this, or they have no idea they're allowed to do anything, because otherwise they scream and they yell and they get what they want. I'm seeing it every day.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the call. Thanks very much for calling in today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good to hear from you. And look, it comes down to that relationship between the parent and the child. If, again, let's remember, there is such a relationship. Maybe the parents are so busy working that the kids are left largely on their own. Maybe there are no parents, but the child is in the shelter system or the foster care system somewhere. I don't know. I know that as much as we would like there to be a magic wand we could wave here and have this simple solution, there is no simple solution. This is a complicated issue, and we're just seeing it play out on our streets today. I, for one, am concerned. A quick note, something coming in news-wise, and definitely an interesting piece of news, and that is the Ontario government is, along with the region of Waterloo, is appealing that recent Ontario Superior Court decision on the encampment at Weber and Victoria. Obviously, the province's point here is that it's holding up construction of a key piece of transit infrastructure, but how about the joint appeal between the region of Waterloo and the government of Ontario concerning that large encampment at Weber and Victoria? An interesting development in the ongoing story there at a busy street corner in Kitchener. We'll get one more call in before we're done. We got about 60 seconds for Greg, Farwell's Force, member number 38.
Yeah, Mike, I'll try and be quick. Tuned in late just because of my lunch hour. But anyways, I don't know, like, ultimately, okay, you know, think of your litter thing. At one point, it's in your hands, and if litter's going to get out of there, somebody chose to do something, but they had totally control. I think all these kids and stuff, forget about, okay, I know there's real loser parents out there, but quit trying to say, like, why did we fail? No, they're ultimately making a choice, and they're not making it, like, unknowingly. They sort of know what they're doing. I'm sure they're totally clear on, you know, whatever consequences. I think you got to somehow get them to be more like they're in the old, we're for feared of what we're going to do when daddy gets home kind of thing. Well, outside of the house, get the daddy kind of fear in them and just basically, okay, severe punishment, severe consequences, no second chance, if you're going to choose that, because who cares about upbringing and all these other things? Forget the excuses. Ultimately, they're making a choice.
All right, Greg, I got to leave you on that point. They are making a choice, but they're 12 years old. My goodness, do they know what the consequences are? Maybe, and if they do, maybe the consequences need to be more severe. Got to leave it there. We'll be back with more conversation tomorrow morning at 9. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.